And the flux capacitor is fluxing. Atomic batteries to power, turbine to speed. Ready to move out. Okay. All right. I think we're ready to go. Are you guys ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So really quickly before we get started, Jeff, I'm trying to pull up your stuff on my phone here. Your news things were the Lost reboot.
Potential Lost reboot, yeah.
Where did it go? It disappeared all of a sudden.
That means I got to watch the original, right?
Potential Lost reboot, no host for the Oscars, and then what's going on with DC.
Yeah. And then I put a couple things in there, but if we don't get to it, that's totally fine. I just put in a quick thing about the Big Shark movie, and then I had read something today that Glenn.
Oh, look, water.
Oh, look, water. How's your face? And then Glenn Close wants to remake Fatal Attraction from a female perspective. So that was the other news thing that I saw today. And there's been a couple of Star Wars Episode 9 leaks that have come out. So I don't know if we want to talk about those or not, but that could be opening a can of worms that would take a while. And we may talk for a minute about the DC stuff. So I think that's fine if we don't get into those.
I've avoided all information about Episode 9.
Okay, so we'll skip that then. All right, we'll skip that stuff then. Okie dokie. Let's do. Oh, you know what? Hold on just a second. I need to get rid of a clock. I have a clock down here. We have one of those clocks that goes off every 15 minutes with the little chiming, and it got put downstairs, so I need to move it real fast.
Got it. So
here we are.
Yeah.
I'm in my quiet mode because you guys were like tech helping. I'm resistant to saying something now.
Well, feel free to say whatever you'd like as long as it's not about baseball or movies about baseball.
I'm going to keep my mouth shut, man. I'm going to keep my mouth shut.
Because you're wrong. You're wrong, and you're just wrong. Just sit there in your wrongness and be wrong. Okay. All right. Let's do this. Welcome once again to the 30-something movie podcast. I am your host, John Reed, and I have with me tonight, I don't know why, as I'm standing here recording all this, I started doing a whole bunch of hand motions because nobody can see me.
It helps get the words out.
It does. My wife, comes from an Italian family, so they talk a lot with their hands. And Pat, I know you talk a lot with your hands. But just like all of a sudden, for some reason, I'm doing the "I'm not a crook" kind of hand motions, and I don't know why I just did that.
Well, are you a crook?
As far as I know, no.
Well, there you go. Then that's okay.
So, okay. But this is the 30-something movie podcast. We're not crooks, but we're here to talk about movies tonight. And so far, I have maybe because I was going to say I have two people with me, and I put up the two fingers, and I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. I have Jeff with me tonight. Jeff, how are you doing?
I'm well, thank you.
Excellent. And you made it back from the high school. They had it was kind of like an audition camp for kids.
Yeah, we started it last year. The high school theater kids that used to be theater kids at our school, their theater program at the high school now invites the middle school kids to come in and learn how to audition better for the middle school productions that are coming up very shortly.
Awesome. And that went well?
Yeah, it did. We had a really good turnout, probably close to 30 kids.
Nice.
About 15 or so from each of the two middle schools in our district. So yeah, it was good to see. And it's great to build that bridge with the high school program and keep that going.
Awesome. And we also got Pat Canigallo. Pat, how are you doing tonight?
Great. Doing
Excellent.
well.
Excellent. Pat is here for his baseball expertise. As I've found out, apparently Pat is just wrong in everything. I think that got mentioned several times in the last episode, but I heard the whole story now, so now I understand that I'm just supposed to tell Pat that he's wrong.
Oh man, good fun. Good
Just
fun.
sit
with
there
the
and be
friend.
wrong, and you're wrong.
I mean, oh man, what are those conversations that you just wish you had a recording for? It was pretty good.
All right. Well, tonight we're going to be talking about another baseball movie. Last time we did Field of Dreams. This time it's not episode number 226, Major League. So we've gotten over the 225 hump, and we're kind of on our way to 250. Which Jeff, how's that going? I know you were kind of planning out some stuff.
We've got something pretty special planned for episode 250 later this summer.
And I'm letting you kind of take the reins on that one because that was kind of your idea. So you're kind of planning some stuff out for us, and got some special surprises. So
yeah,
look forward to that.
It'll be good. We there's going to be some definitive ranking going on as opposed to conversational discussions about specific things we like. There's going to be some decisions that'll have to be made, which I know. I know, John, you've been back and forth with the list that I forced you to create. So good thing we have until July.
Well, I know that I kind of walked into your room at one point, and I pulled a Kramer. I walked in and it was like, I'm out, or like, I'm done. I'm like, I have my list. My 5 are done. And then I think maybe later that day I came back and I'm like, okay. So there might be one that I need to change. Maybe one.
Hey, you've got a couple of months, man.
I know. So I'm going to start budgeting my time now so I can get it done. All right. So we've got 250 coming up. That actually will probably not be in too long. It's in July, but it was going to come very quickly. So that's coming up soon. We'll let you know more about that kind of as it gets closer. So if you as listeners would like to kind of send in some of your rankings as well, we'll make sure that we kind of get out the topic for that show and anything else you might need to know a little bit ahead of time. So you can feel free to call in to our voicemail line or tweet or email or however you want to do that. If you want to kind of get your own voice in on the show there. Do that.
We're talking to you, Jason Colvin.
That's right.
When are we getting that guy in the show, man?
He sent a list of a few movies that he might be interested in talking about. So I'm going to take a look again at.
I don't want a list. I want him to be part of our conversations.
Well, no, I know. Yeah. He sent some that he would be interested in being in on. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll get him on. All right. Very, very quickly before we get into our stuff, we've got some movie news. We have a lot of things that we were going to talk about last week and just didn't have the time to do it. So we're going to devote a little bit of time to that tonight before we get into Major League. But very, very quickly, we are a spoiler podcast. When we start to talk about movies, there is no guarantee we won't spoil those movies. So if you hear the name of a movie and you don't want to be spoiled, maybe jump ahead a few seconds on your podcast listening app or whatever you use. Just be aware. We will spoil the movies, especially Major League. And maybe any of the other movies in the Major League franchise. iTunes reviews, if you have not left us an iTunes review yet, please go ahead and do that. It just takes a few moments and it lets us know what you're enjoying about the show. And feel free to visit our website. That's the kind of the best way to find all the different ways to listen to the show, but also to interact with us. We're usually pretty active on Twitter. We're also on Instagram. And then all the different places that you can find us to listen to. And it's also got the number for our voicemail line that you can call into. So Dennis may be joining us in a few minutes. I know he was running just a little bit late tonight, so he may jump in here in a little bit. I know he missed talking Field of Dreams last time. So maybe if he's able to jump in while we're talking Major League, maybe towards the end of the show, maybe we can get kind of a quick update from him on some of his thoughts on Field of Dreams. If he's able to join us tonight, that can be kind of our a little bit of like a Field of Dreams 2.5 or whatever the episode was going to be, 225.5.
Yeah, I was really bummed that he missed that one actually.
Yeah. In particular, I wanted to have Bo and you and Dennis in on that because as much as I enjoy baseball, I'm not as well versed in the history of baseball. Baseball is not my primary sport of which I am a fan. So I still love baseball. I think it's great, but I'm not as invested in baseball as you three guys. So I was really bummed when Dennis wasn't able to make it. So hopefully we'll get him in here tonight and let him share some of his baseball wisdom with us.
Incidentally, this past weekend on TBS, they had the remake of Father of the Bride.
Oh yeah.
And there's a great line in there which I felt just it summed up how I felt about Dennis not making the Field of Dreams. As the wedding is all, going on and taking place, Steve Martin's character is George Banks. He's all over the place trying to do this, take care of that, and he's missing out on everything. And when he finally attempts to, but misses the bouquet tossing, Diane Keaton, who plays his wife, just audibly says out loud, a little exasperated and a little sad, she goes, "Oh, he missed it." And I just felt like that just summed up how I felt about Dennis missing the Fields of Dreams podcast. I was like, oh,
yeah,
he missed it. I felt really sad.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll
get him in here.
Correct that later.
Yeah. All right, so we've got several news items to talk about, and we don't want to spend too much time on them because we want to get into our discussion of Major League tonight. But it seems like there were several things that kind of came up last week that we just didn't quite get around to, and there were a couple things that have come up just within the last couple days or so that we might want to mention as well. So, Jeff, I'll let you get started with yours. I know you had a list of stuff that we didn't get to everything last time, so let's go ahead and work down your list.
Just a couple of quick talking points, brief discussions. First one being that the new president of ABC, her name is Carrie Burke, mentioned that she's interested in seeing a reboot of Lost. However, she has not yet spoken with Abrams, Lindelof, or Lieber, the gentleman that created the show. I was just wondering what you guys thought, if you have any background with that show, and what you thought about the idea of trying to reboot it and do something different with it.
Yeah, I remember we kind of came to the Lost game a little bit late when it first came on. And I remember my wife and I, we started watching it. We really liked it. And we got maybe the first two, maybe three seasons into it, and then I want to say we got a couple episodes behind, and that was still back before there were a lot of streaming options for TV, and if you got behind on something, then you really just kind of had to wait until the season came out on DVD later on, and we just got a little bit behind, and then we tried to come back into it, and it was already very confusing, and we kind of just we let everything slide for those last, I think maybe the last two-ish seasons of the show, and we never really had too much of a desire to come back to it. So I remember I think kind of the first half of the show, maybe the first 3 or so seasons, because it went about 7 years, didn't it? Was it that many seasons?
I honestly don't remember. 6 or 7.
6 or 7? Okay.
It was one of the shows that got plagued by that writer's strike.
Yeah.
There are so many good shows that just got handcuffed by that writer's strike and never quite rebounded. And the ideas being thrown around in Lost were just already crazy, let alone trying to bounce back from that however long they were off the air because of the strike.
Yeah, like I was always intrigued by the different episodes when when there's all these like hidden codes everywhere and stuff to figure out, and just trying to figure out what's going on this island. Like all of that was really interesting, but then it was just we got a few episodes behind, and at that point, TV wasn't like it is now, and it wasn't easy to get caught up. And I just kind of feel like then too we got to a point where we're like, I don't know, maybe the show's just. Maybe it's too much to try to follow anymore, and
definitely
somewhere about halfway through the show, about maybe two thirds of the way through all of the seasons, we just were kind of like, I don't know if I'm feeling invested anymore, and we moved on to something else. But so no, I wouldn't have a problem with them doing a remake. I don't know if it feels like it's too soon to do a remake.
I just don't know what on earth they would try to do to it to make it better, because it was so out there at the time.
Yeah. But I think I see a Dennis Matuch in the shadows there.
Yep.
Quit looking out your window.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm in the basement, so if he's down here, that's kind of creepy.
I'm in your bathroom.
Oh, okay.
The way the light catches Dennis, he's kind of got that like Grizzly Adams killer lumberjack look going on.
A little bit, yeah.
That sounds about right.
That's pretty cool, man.
It's been that sort of month for Dennis.
No, you can button your shirt back up again, Dennis. That's fine.
And your pants while you're at it.
I was just going
what
to
pants?
I don't know what look is going on right now, but I'm sure not going to say anything about baseball.
All right, so where are we at?
We were talking about they want to reboot Lost.
Possibly
this is-
reboot
Oh
Lost.
yeah. With this time with a real ending.
One would hope. I
I'd
don't.
love that if they had a good ending. I'm still waiting for an explanation.
Did you watch Lost when it aired, Dennis?
Yes, I did.
And you were as disappointed as the rest of us with the ending?
Yes.
My takeaway on that was, like, I get that it's not going to be as great as everyone individually came up with in their own minds of how it should end. But the ending that they did come up with it just fell so flat. And I just remember I was at a Lost party. It was a big get together for, the wrapping up of the show and the last episode. And we all just sat there afterwards and were like, that's it. That's okay.
I want to ask a question
Think of
here.
How much time we lost watching that?
Well, I want to ask a question here. But if Pat, I don't know how much you've watched Lost. Let's try that again. I don't know how much you've watched Lost, and I don't want to spoil anything if you haven't.
No, that's fine. I've seen exactly -2 minutes of Lost.
Okay. So if I ask a question that may reveal something, you don't care?
No, because I like.
Okay. All right. So I didn't watch at least the last 2 seasons, but I think I did read or hear somewhere. Didn't it end up having something to do with time travel? And did it end with everybody being dead, or did I read something differently?
That was about it.
Like everybody had been dead the entire time?
It did have to do with time travel at one point in the show.
Okay.
But it did end with everybody being dead.
Okay. And
They're
they were
all
dead.
dead.
And they were dead the entire time.
They're all dead.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're dead, Jim. Okay.
Yep, it was like purgatory. Well, yeah, they're dead. Yeah.
Yeah, like a purgatory kind of thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which again, that's why I think I know you're saying, Jeff, like everybody wanted it to be as good as the endings in their head, and at the same time, I think I was like, you thought of things and you thought of where it was going. And you thought, you were engaged every week and you were thinking of all those theories, and people would talk and try to explain what this meant and what that meant. It was like really cool and engaging. And I think in the end, the ending was one that most people came to as a possibility within the first probably season.
Mm-hmm.
So to have the original ending be what you kind of were like, well, I hope it's not. I remember thinking, I hope it's not that, because, then it's already what I thought of. To have it go to that and just be that, it seemed like they had this great idea and they just didn't know how to finish it.
Well, I remember them saying that from early on, they knew that they wanted to end with Jack's eye closing. Since the series started with his eye
Open that
opening.
way, yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I spent I don't know how many hours upon hours, not just watching the show, but discussing and emailing and diagramming and talking about it with all sorts, with students and with friends, dissecting everything that we saw and try to figure out what fits in where and how. And
Yeah.
so if they want to try to reboot it, okay. I just don't know.
They have to have a different ending, though. Otherwise, it'll just everybody would be disappointed.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
show got so off the rails at one point. I don't know what you try to do to reboot it, if not just remake it all together and pretend the first go around just didn't happen.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm curious to see like what the cat and that would be. Would they be rebooting this for a TV series again, or would it be a movie?
Yeah,
or,
I mean, the new president of ABC said that she would be interested in seeing a reboot of Lost, but that's as far as that's gone. She hasn't, at the time that I read the article, she hadn't yet spoken with Abrams, Lindelof, and Lieber. So
Yeah,
it was just something she said that she would not mind seeing happen under her guidance at ABC.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you can improve on the cast. I think the cast was really good. So I don't know unless you can actually finish it and do it justice somehow. and give it an ending that it deserved, I think you leave it alone.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have any interest unless you're going to tell me you're going to give me a good ending. But if it's going to be a reboot and it's all going to be based on the same concept, we already know that, then what's the point? So,
well,
you're
it's
not
still
gonna, I mean, the cast, it was an excellent cast. I mean,
well, and I still feel like it's too soon for a reboot, because when did it end? It ended in, was it like 2009, 2010?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So I mean, it's less than a decade. Do you need to reboot something that's less than a decade old?
Yeah. No,
I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. Was that the answer you're looking for, Jeff?
Well, I was just curious as what you guys thought. I mean, I don't know we've never talked about it, so I don't know what your backgrounds with the show were.
Yeah.
But there's that larger question about, like you just started talking about, is it too soon to reboot a TV show? Or when is a good time to reboot a TV show? So I don't know. Just thought I'd throw that out there. If any of our listeners are fans of Lost, maybe they can email or call or tweet and let us know what they think of the idea of bringing back that show and what they would want to see happen the second time around.
Yeah. I feel like unless it's a Spider-Man property, which you'd reboot like every 6 months, then I think you need like 15 years at least, 20 years maybe before you reboot something.
So up next on my new movie news, this year's Oscars are going to have no host. What do you guys think? Good idea, bad idea? Do you just not care?
Just not care.
I'm fine with that. I mean,
So they're just going to go from presenter to presenter, like.
It'll be shorter.
Exactly. I'm thinking all the BS will be gone.
Yeah.
It could be good.
I don't necessarily know that it'll be shorter. I'm sure they'll find some way to still draw it out.
Maybe that's true.
Well, there's a new time requirement too. I think they said that you, instead of having 45 seconds from the time you get to the stage, you now have 90 seconds from the moment your name is called. And I think that was an attempt to try to cut down on the amount of time, like when you're sitting there like hugging all your friends before you walk up to the stage. I think that was kind of one of their attempts to say, hey, let's move things along a little bit, and you now have 90 seconds, but it's from the time your name is called. So if you want to talk more, get up on the stage.
Yeah.
So no, I don't really have a preference either way. I don't feel like I'm old enough to have remembered, because I know in the was it late 80s, early 90s, they had, it might have been even 89, they had an Oscars without a host, and I feel like they just kind of did. I think I was reading up on it, and they just did like extended roles for the different presenters.
Was that the one that had that really weird music?
Yes, it was the Rob Lowe one.
Snow White made an appearance.
I think it was Cinderella and a bunch of other Disney princesses, and it was, Rob Lowe was trying to sing, and yeah, from what I remember, it was not good. But I'm sure they'll do something different with it this time.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm getting to the point now where I don't get as excited about the Oscars as I used to. Mostly because I don't go to movies too much anymore. At least currently, I don't go to movies too much. So I haven't really seen most of what's been nominated. I haven't had a chance to see.
Well, that's the thing too, is that when I used to work at a movie theater during grad school, we could get in and see free movies all the time. So there was one year that while I was working, I had free movie tickets. So Sharon got to get in and watch. I think she saw every movie that was up for Best Picture that year. And so working at a movie theater, and she had watched all the movies. So then we were a little bit more invested in, trying to figure out who was going to win these awards, because we'd seen them all. But it's been years since we've seen even maybe a fraction of the movies that are up for Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Actress, all that.
Yeah, and the Oscars tend to sway towards the more. I'm tired. I can't think of a good word, but more dramatic films, more adult themed films. you know, and for years they've overlooked a couple of movies every year that were really good movies, but because they didn't fit the mold of what the Oscars were trying to be, they you know, they just got overlooked. So, you know, I'm not heartbroken at Oscars making changes, because I don't actually know that I'm going to watch all of it this year. I just don't care enough about a lot of the movies that have been nominated.
Yeah. Black Panther's up there, but I think that's one of the only ones might have seen.
And now that I've finally watched that Mr. Rogers documentary, Won't You Be My Neighbor? Because PBS aired it over the weekend. How was that not nominated?
And you made it through that okay?
Oh, I didn't say I made it through okay.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
yeah, I missed it on PBS. We were supposed to watch it and record it. We missed it. So hopefully we'll get the...
There's something very special about Fred Rogers.
Yeah. Yeah. Sharon and I saw that in the theater, and there was not a dry eye in the theater.
I mean, I just don't know. I don't know what it is about him, but there was just something that he could just look at you and look right into your soul, right into your heart, and you felt safe and comfortable. And, you know, just, I said to Katie when it was done, I said, God, what do you think he would say about the world we live in right now if he were still alive and watching our society unfold?
Yeah.
We need another person like him to help find that moral compass within ourselves and stop pointing out all of the things that we dislike about each other, and start bringing humanity back together and reminding people, be kind, be compassionate. That's all you have to do in this world. Wake up and just be kind to the people that you see.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I mean, we've played it for advisory, and Mr. KO and I's advisory, but when you say, what would he say? I mean, he's always going to be positive, and he's always going to be...
But I would love to hear him put a positive spin on the world we live in.
Well, his thing was back then, the piece that we said was, it was in response to, I think, initially 9/11, but he said that, you know, what he learned from his mother was, she always said, when there's terrible times, when there's terrible things happening, when you see all this, you know, whether it be evil or unkindness or lack of compassion, you know, or tragedy that happens in the world, look for the helpers, because they're there. You know, look for the helpers. Always look for the helpers and see them, because in all those moments, there's people who step up and do amazing thing, and that's what you want to focus on. So that's what I think his message would kind of be: is look for that, look for the healers, look for the peacemakers, look for the helpers.
No, very true. That is very true. But anyway, we were talking about Oscars. So yeah, that was the new movie news I had about the Oscars. The last thing I wanted to mention is, and John, you and I kind of talked about this earlier today, what is going on with DC films? They seemingly are all over the place in the movies they're creating, because after you had Aquaman, which I have not seen, I heard great things, have not seen it, but you had such an up and down, starting with Man of Steel and all the way to Aquaman, that, you know, they're gaining fans, they're losing fans, they're confusing fans. And, you know, they've got Shazam coming up, which looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. And then they just recently announced that a couple of release dates, and we're looking at 3 movies coming out in 2021. We have Super Pets, which is an animated movie about the Super Pets, Crypto, and I don't know who else, but I don't know if or how that might tie into the universe they're trying to create. And then the Batman is going to be released on June 25th, and the Suicide Squad is going to be released on August 6th. But you know, they just seem to have no set plan, because you have that standalone Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix coming out sometime before then, which isn't supposed to tie in with anything. So I don't know, just like they just sort of seem to be, you know, just taking a chance on everything and seeing what works and saying the hell with it if it doesn't, and just going forward to the next thing.
Yeah, that's as I was mentioning to you earlier. I was thinking of this the other day. I had watched a little while. I had started Bad Times at the El Royale, that movie that had come out just earlier this last year. And in it, John Hamm is in that movie. And there's a couple of scenes where he's wearing kind of like a trench coat and glasses. And I know that back in the day, years ago when he was just a little bit younger, I mean, he doesn't look that different. He doesn't look that much older, but he was kind of lobbying to play Superman at one point. And I always thought, yeah, he could totally be a Superman character. But in watching this movie, he's, just seeing him with the long coat and the glasses, he's, at different times, he's kind of, not that he's acting nerdy, but, he kind of has that Clark Kent vibe. And I was like, oh, well, he totally looks like a Clark Kent. And then I was thinking about, we had just talked on the podcast about that Alex Ross art exhibit coming out. And Alex Ross's, probably one of his more famous comics that he did was the Kingdom Come comic, which is supposed to be set in the future, and Superman is older, and all the other heroes are older. And I got to thinking, I was like, you know what? I would love if they would make that movie and have John Hamm play an older Superman, which then led me to the thought that, why don't they, and Jeff, this is what you and I were kind of talking about earlier today, what if they just ditch the idea of trying to do a shared connected universe the way Marvel did? Because clearly it's not working for DC. Why don't they just ditch that and say, you know what, we're not even going to try that. We're going to go with, DC's version of having alternate realities and alternate universes is called Elseworlds. Like, why don't we just, our whole world, we'll just plan it as Elseworlds movies. And if we do 2 or 3 movies with Henry Cavill as Superman, great. Then we can move on and have somebody else do Superman and tell different Superman stories. If we have 2 movies with Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, great. We'll do those. And then maybe in like 3 or 4 years, we'll grab somebody new and then they can play Wonder Woman. And then we don't have to play that game of everything's got to be connected. Everything's got to be working toward some massive story. And just do it that way. And then it kind of frees them up to be able to do whatever they want to do. Because I feel like that's what they've done so well with their TV shows is they haven't, they cross those over if they want to, like with The Flash and Arrow and Supergirl and Legends of Tomorrow. And when they want to do crossovers, great. Otherwise, from week to week, those shows don't have to be connected in any way at all. Their new TV shows that are on the DC streaming service, those are not connected. The animated movies they've done, those are not connected. So I'm kind of to the point now, and you mentioned the new standalone Joker movie, and the idea of, okay, well, we've got Suicide Squad came out, and that had its own Joker. And we've got this new one coming out with Joaquin Phoenix, and that's going to be its own Joker. You've just had the Heath Ledger Joker movie not that long ago. And who cares that it's all different stories and they're not connected, but it's the same character. I don't think at this point it's as much of a big deal as people maybe a few years ago thought it would be. When people will be like, oh, but that's too confusing. You can't have 2 different people playing Superman, one on TV and one in movies. People will get confused. No, just make the movies.
Yeah.
People will figure it out. I mean, there's a lot of people that maybe are not necessarily super smart when it comes to some of that stuff, but so what? They might be confused for a few minutes, and then maybe while they're in the movie, they're just like, whatever. I'm just gonna watch the movie and enjoy it. So I kind of wish they'd just take that route. I wish they would just say, forget it. We're not doing a shared thing. We're just doing Elseworlds movies. And that way we get to be as creative as we want to be, and we don't have to worry about tying everything together.
Yeah, and as long as they don't try to retcon all of it, be like, well, this was our plan all along to do Elseworlds, because we all know that would be just a load of crap. So if they would just, maybe if they just came out and said, okay, so this is what we're going to do going forward, instead of trying to save face on everything that they've done in the past. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I just wish they'd make a choice and try to figure out a plan, share the plan with the public, so we have somewhat of an idea of what to expect when a new DC movie comes out, instead of trying to figure out, well, is this going to fit in their universe? Is it not going to be in part of the universe? Who knows?
All right. Did you, Jeff? Did you have any more on your list? Or that was kind of right, DC thing was kind of the end of your list, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing that I saw real quick today is that Scorsese and DiCaprio were going to be working on Devil in the White City.
Okay.
Apparently now, instead of doing a movie, it's going to be a series on Hulu.
Okay.
So that might be enough to make me subscribe to Hulu.
Mm-hmm. At least for a month, and then.
Yeah. So if there's any Eric Larson fans out there, there you go.
Cool.
But that's all I got.
Yeah. Nice. All right. Yeah, the only two things I had, I don't know how much commentary this needs. I saw today Glenn Close wants to remake Fatal Attraction from a female perspective. I know we covered that one on the podcast, but I don't know. We might have even talked about that on the podcast. You know, what if you did this from the other way?
From the perspective of the female that she played in that movie, or having the female be the Michael Douglas character?
I think it's the female be the Michael Douglas character. Okay. I think it's just to swap the roles.
So I think I'd be more interested in that movie from her character's viewpoint.
Yeah. Yeah, that might be a more original take on it. So I didn't have much more than that. I happened to see that today, and I knew we did that one on the podcast a little while back, so figured I'd throw that one out there too. And here's the one I was going to mention. Jeff, you may be the only one to have seen the trailer for this so far. I think I texted it to you guys a while ago, but not sure if you guys watched it or not. Tommy Wiseau has a new movie coming out called Big Shark. Did you guys have a chance to watch that trailer I texted to you?
I didn't get to see the trailer. I should watch it now, but damn.
Okay.
Is it is it good?
It's awful.
No.
It's awful.
Now, will lightning strike twice? Will this awfulness be accepted the second time because it's him?
Probably.
I think he's going to play.
Or will it run its course and people will be like, yeah.
I think he's definitely going to play on his fame from The Room.
Yeah.
And try to use that to get.
Will it work? Is my question, I guess. Or will people be like, okay, you know what? That's done.
Not based on. It's not going to work based on the trailer.
I'll have to see that. I haven't seen the trailer yet, so I'll have to. Now you said nothing worked based on the trailer.
I said I don't think it'll work just based on seeing the trailer. It looks like it should be on sci-fi. The effects of the shark definitely look like they're made for the Sci-Fi Network as opposed to a movie.
Well, I also just wonder how far does the kind of I don't know if you want to call it like the William Hung, from like got his album and people were like, oh, but now you don't hear from
Mm-hmm.
Did that run its course? Like, because now is it him trying to be bad, or is it not as funny this time, or not as interesting?
I don't know. This just looks like he made a B-movie version of Sharknado.
Okay.
And consider where you start with Sharknado.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what it is. So okay. So other than that, I didn't have anything else to go along with that one. I'll throw, for all the good it'll do you. You probably just need to go watch it anyway. But I'll throw the trailer audio in, and you can hear Tommy Wiseau say, "Oh, look, water!
Oh, water!
Oh, water! Look at that! How's your face?" I did say, I told Jeff, I said, if the shark's name is not Lisa, I'm going to be very disappointed.
You're tearing me apart, Lisa.
I did not bite her. I did not.
Oh, hi, Shark.
Hi, Sharky. All right. So I think that probably does it for our news. If there's any news items we missed, anything you want to share with us, again, we are on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Feel free to get in touch with us and throw some stuff out there. If you have any comments of your own on any of these, feel free to call into the voicemail line and let us know. We'll give you the number at the end of the show, or you just go to our website and the number's on there as well. So the this week in '89, real quickly. So we're kind of in the week of February 13th to 19th in 1989. So we had a couple things happen. February 14th, 1989, the first of 24 satellites that would make up the GPS system is put into orbit. And now nobody buys maps anymore. February 14th, also February 14th, 1989, the Ayatollah Khomeini calls for the death of author Salman Rushdie for his novel The Satanic Verses. I don't know how much that was a news item here in the States. I remember that when we moved in 90 or 91, that we moved over to England. I feel like that was an ongoing item in the news when we first moved over there, because I remember we had a religious studies class in the school that I went to in England, and I remember we talked a lot about this because it was still kind of an ongoing thing. So I don't know if that was a big deal over here as much, or if it was more of a European thing. And then finally on September, that's a new month. It's a lot like, Trucktoberthon and all those other months that are completely made up. But in September 15th, we had the last Soviet troops withdrew from Afghanistan. The top book was Midnight by Dean Koontz. The top movie for the week of February 12th was, it just as we had mentioned last time, it kind of overlapped with this week, The Fly 2. The top song was Straight Up by Paula Abdul. All right. Do you guys have anything else before I jump into our info on Major League and get going with that one?
No. Did we welcome Bo?
We did not. We heard Bo's voice a little bit ago, but we did not welcome Bo because he jumped in here. So how are you doing, Bo?
I thought that was Pat for a second.
Pat's in there. He might have fallen asleep. We just need to say Wolverine and it'll wake him up.
Or Millennium Falcon.
Or Wolverine in the Millennium Falcon.
Oh, he might not be there.
Did we lose Pat and Bo?
I think we lost them both.
We might have lost Pat and Bo.
All righty then. Well,
Okay.
Let's just keep going forward.
All right. We'll keep rolling through then. All right. So this time around, our movie is Major League. It came out the 7th of April, 1989, rated R, with a runtime of 1 hour, 47 minutes. The director was David S. Ward, who also did King Ralph and The Program, which, if anybody listening, I don't know why they would be, but if anybody listening played football for the Libertyville Wildcats in the late 90s, we all know The Program because that was what was showing nonstop on the big screen TV that we had in the locker room. Probably one of the greatest, worst college football movies ever made. Producers on this one were Chris Chesser and Irby Smith. Chesser did The Rundown as a producer. Smith did Young Guns and City Slickers. David S. Ward, the director, was also the writer on this one. He was also a writer for The Sting and Sleepless in Seattle. Cinematography was done by Reynaldo Villalobos. He was also cinematographer for The Running Man and Risky Business. Music was done by James Newton Howard. He did Wildcats, Everybody's All-American, and Pretty Woman. Budget for this one was $11 million. Box office was $49.8 million. Ratings for this one, the Rotten Tomato top critics gave this one a 60%. If you just look at the critics, it's an 82%, but top critics gave it a 60%. Rotten Tomatoes audience gives it an 84%. IMDb gives it a 72%. Letterboxd gives it a 68%. And Cinema Score, where people are polled as they leave the theater, gives it an A-. Starring Tom Berenger as Jake Taylor. He was in Platoon and Inception. Charlie Sheen was Ricky Vaughn, or Wild Thing. He was in Wall Street and Hot Shots. Corbin Burnson played Roger Dorn. He was in L.A. Law, and he was in, I think, 4 or 5 episodes of the newest season of The Punisher on Netflix. Margaret Whitten, who died in 2016, played Rachel Phelps. She was in The Secret of My Success. James Gammon, who died in 2010, played Lou Brown. He was in Silverado and Cold Mountain. Renee Russo played Lynn Wells. She was in Ransom and Lethal Weapon 3 and 4. Wesley Snipes played Willie Mays Hayes. He was in Demolition Man and the Blade movies. Charles Cyphers played Charlie Donovan. He was in Halloween. Chelsea Ross played Eddie Harris. He was in Basic Instinct. Dennis Haysbert played Pedro Serrano. He was in 24 and Heat. Andy Romano played Pepper Leach, who was in Under Siege. And Bob Uecker played Harry Doyle. He was in all of the Major League movies and Mr. Belvedere. Here's the audio for the Major League movie trailer, and we'll be back in just a second. Okay, so I will start off by saying this, watching this movie this time for the podcast was the first time I had ever seen this. I had never seen any of the Major League movies before. I knew of them. I had seen clips of them. I think I had seen clips of, Serrano with his voodoo stuff and things like that. I knew of some of those references, but I had never watched this movie. What's that?
How old were you in 94?
In 94, I would have been...
That's number 2, sorry. No, the first
That's 2. For this one, I would have been 8.
89. So 89, you would have been 8. Okay, yeah, that makes sense then.
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say, because I don't know how you could be a teen and not probably have watched this.
Right, yeah. And this kind of feels like one that I would have seen as a teenager at some point. I remember seeing like previews and things for Major League 2 when that one came out, because at that point I would have been about 13. But just, I don't know, for some reason or other.
Stuff, but at the same time, I'm like, you got that uncle and he pretty much showed you everything. So I would figure you would have got around to this one.
We lived further away by the time I was 13 and 14. So,
okay.
Yeah. My R-rated movies I shouldn't have seen kind of ended around age 11 or so. But yeah, so no, this is the first time I've seen this movie. So what about the rest of you guys? Is this something you had seen before? Did you see it when it came out?
Didn't see it at the theater. I was 16, 17. We didn't see it at the theater. I think we saw it immediately when it came to VHS. My dad got that.
Okay.
So it was on VHS most. Yeah, I'm almost positive it was VHS. He wouldn't taking us to the theater for that kind.
Yeah, I probably saw it when I was in junior high. I would assume late junior high, early high school, if not junior high. But I didn't see it in the theater. I know that much. So, because I would have been, 11 when this came out. So, yeah, I would have been 10, 11 years old when this came out. So I wouldn't have gone to the theater to see it. So I probably saw it a couple years later on video or something.
Yeah. Pat, Bo.
Pat. Wolverine.
Wrong.
Bo.
But yeah.
Anybody?
With R-rating, I'm trying to think. Like I remember, like our parents weren't big into showing us all the R-rated movies, but it was a comedy. And I don't think there's language, but I don't know. I want to say that it was when it came out, but that would put me. Yeah, I was about 16, so that would have been fine. I think around that time, 16, 17. So.
Yeah. I don't know why I haven't seen them before now. I mean, the sports comedies are a movie that I tend to gravitate towards and at least give a movie a try. So yeah, I'm not sure why at this point I hadn't seen them. I don't know. They were just never on a watch list for me until we got to the podcast and I realized I haven't seen these yet.
Well, if you haven't seen the others, do yourself a favor and don't watch them.
Yeah.
Okay. Not even 2?
No.
No, not really.
Okay.
2 is tolerable if you really have nothing to do and the only channel on is that. Yeah, but not like not something I would search out.
And then 3 was just
3. I don't even know if I saw 3. To be honest.
Back to the minors.
Yeah, I don't even think I saw 3.
I've seen it once, maybe twice, but yeah, not great.
Okay. So in terms of this one compared with like let's just compare it to other kind of baseball, maybe comedies. Where does this one kind of fit for you guys in terms of like the baseball comedy? And I'm thinking like, let's compare it with something like A League of Their Own or The Sandlot or I don't know if you want to consider Bull Durham a comedy. I don't know if that's really a comedy. Where does this one kind of fit for you in terms of like the baseball movie?
In terms of a baseball movie, I think it's pretty solid. I don't think it's comparable to some of those others you mentioned, though, because those others aren't really baseball movies. A League of Their Own is a great movie that has the backdrop of baseball, much like Field of Dreams. It's got this wonderful backdrop of baseball, but it's about so much more. Same thing with Sandlot. It's got this backdrop of baseball, but it's about so much more. Major League is about baseball. And even though it tries to bring in other elements, I think it's I think it's a baseball flick.
Yeah, it's a comedy. It's a baseball flick. It's a bad news. It fits more in the category of a Bad News Bears, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
Maybe.
that'd be a good companion.
You know, the team that's struggling, the team, you know, it's got the a little bit of the formula, and it's got the funny things that happen. It's got the you know, I think overall, I think of it, it's in that category. So I would put that. I wouldn't put that in the category of Field of Dreams or even Bull Durham.
No,
Bull Durham,
I definitely wouldn't put this in the same. I wouldn't put this in the same category as a Field of Dreams. I don't think it fits with that at all.
And Bull Durham, I think
Bull Durham, not really.
It's Bull Durham's in a higher level than that. This is kind of just more like sophomoric, sort of funny, you know, and it works, and that's what it's supposed to be, just like Bad News Bears, where Sandlot's got a certain sweetness to it and has the funniness. Bull Durham, you know, has a story there too. I mean, I think you feel, at least I do, at least, you know, the Kevin Costner's character, literally his frustration and his you know, the dream of not making it, you know, and not really making it anymore. Like he's you know, that all works in more of a drama aspect, where I don't really think there's too much of a drama piece in this.
No. I mean, like I said, they tried.
But it's more like a sitcom. It's more like a
I mean, you add the different stuff that goes on with, you know, with Serrano and his voodoo, Willie Mays Hayes and his shtick. You have Jake Taylor and his romantic relationship. So they try to bring in some other stuff, but really, I think you nailed it when you said it's a sophomoric type of movie. Mm-hmm. You know, you don't look for too much in there, the same way that you could with other sports movies. You know, it's not A League of Their Own. It's not Rocky. It's not Rudy. It's just a silly movie about, you know, guys playing baseball.
Yeah.
All right, I think we got Bo back. Bo, are you back?
Yep.
Oh, there you go. Okay. So when we were kind of talking about, like, you know, first time you saw this, and, you know, compared with other like baseball comedies, sports comedies, kind of, how's this one work for you?
It worked. I mean, it's one of my favorites. I think I have to watch this movie a couple times a year. So I'm, you know, and Jeff's right. Dennis is right. It's not trying to be anything. It's not. I think that's what makes it so good.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, the groundskeepers say it all in the first 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Who are these freaking guys? It sets the tone for the whole rest of the movie.
Yeah. I guess maybe it's an underdog story, if you will, but even so, that's almost stretching it.
Yeah, because it's an underdog story against a comical villain. I mean, she's not even, you're not ever really afraid of her. She's a joke.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny. I looked it up. I found a couple of different places that they said this actually is based on a kind of a true story. Did any of you guys find that? It was related to the Minnesota Twins in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So this was, I pulled this off of, it was in a couple of different places, but I pulled it off of IMDb. It says the Rachel Phelps character and her plan to move the Indians was inspired by real life Minnesota Twins owner Calvin Griffith. In the 70s, during the planning stages of constructing the Metrodome Stadium, Griffith had negotiated for an escape clause in the team's lease, which said if the Twins' home attendance was under 1.4 million per season for 3 consecutive seasons, the team could be released from its contract and leave Minnesota. So it says, like the Phelps character, Griffith let quality players depart via free agency and used cheap, inexperienced rookies and has-beens. The Twins lost 102 games in their first year in the Metrodome in '82, then 92 games the year afterward, with attendance under 900,000 in each of those seasons. A group of investors from Tampa bought 42% of the team, and the Twins were on the verge of moving to Florida. To many fans, it appeared Griffith had weaseled the escape clause into the contract and set up the roster so he could put it into practice. The situation was avoided when Griffith sold the Twins to banker Carl Pohlad. The Tampa group sold its minority stock to Pohlad, and the Twins remained in Minneapolis.
And Florida was like it was the carrot, or actually, I guess it was the stick that all the owners were using back then. we'll move the team to Florida. We'll do this. We'll do that. And then, of course, Florida got its own team, and then they lost that. But, I mean, even the White Sox almost moved to St. Petersburg for half a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So what about each of the let's talk for a second about each of the different characters. I love that scene when it, like I said, this is the first time I've seen this movie, watching it for the podcast.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Had not seen it, as I mentioned before, hadn't seen this one. I remember in maybe middle school, it's probably about middle school age. The Major League 2 previews were coming out. So I remember seeing those, but I'd never seen the original one, and it just didn't, I think since I hadn't seen the original, then seeing Major League 2 didn't hold much fascination for me. So as a teenager, so I just never ended up watching them. So this, watching this for the first time for the podcast was the first time I'd seen it. And
Cool.
I really liked that whole scene where everybody's showing up for spring training. Like everybody pulls up in their different cars, whether it's on the motorcycle, whether it's in the little modified VW Bug, as everybody pulls up and everybody gets introduced. So let's talk for just a minute about the different players in this movie. Do you have, of the different characters that are in this movie, do you have a favorite from the characters?
I've always been a Jake Taylor fan, the grizzled veteran.
Yeah, I was going to say between him and Willie Mays Hayes for some reason.
You may run like Hayes, but you hit like...
I think those two really love baseball.
Yes.
And you have two different viewpoints. You have the veteran viewpoint, and you have the rookie viewpoint. And Willie Mays Hayes he's a hotshot rookie, and he's all excited about all these records he's going to break and all the steals he's going to get. And you have Jake Taylor, who's just kind of watching it start to disappear and fade away.
How does he say it? Just one more
has been
summer in the sun or something like that. Yeah.
So I think out of all of them, those are the two that stand out as being the ball players out of the bunch.
Mm-hmm.
The other side, I mean, the other characters are fun. Serrano's great.
I think that's probably Serrano and probably Willie Mays Hayes are probably my two favorites in the movie. But I love all the scenes with Serrano, and just how everybody reacts to him. One of his first parts, and he goes and takes the cover off the golf clubs. Hats for bats.
Keep bats warm.
Keep bats warm.
Gracias.
Yeah.
He's even funny when he's not in a scene, because with the bucket of chicken, what's that for? Serrano wants to sacrifice a whole chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Harris, I kind of like and don't like. I think he, he's definitely seen his career go by. And Roger Dorn, I'm not a huge fan of.
Oh, he's just there for the money.
Yeah.
Speaking of there for the money, did we get Patrick back?
Yes. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, man. Have you been talking this whole time?
No, I realized I started to have problems, and then my thing started phasing. The computer started kind of going in and out. And then I was trying to, and then it was just like one thing after another. And then I started seeing the cautionary texts like, Pat, are you still with us? So I just kind of had to pull out and re-enter and all that kind of stuff.
Pat, would you say that something was wrong with your computer?
Maybe the guy talking on the other end trying to talk about baseball was the issue.
Okay.
No, you're wrong. I mean, I see what you're trying to do, but you're wrong.
Just sit there in your wrongness and be wrong.
Yeah, I get that a whole lot.
Pat, I don't think this is going to go away anytime soon, but I also think that I think we've reached a point where Bo could start telling us that wax on, wax off is his favorite part of Rocky IV, and I still think you probably are going to end up being wronger.
It does seem that way.
Mm-hmm.
There is a good point. There is a good chance of that.
And I noticed Dennis is being awfully quiet about Pat's wrongness.
Well, you brought up Mr. Rogers. I'm trying to be kind and compassionate.
Oh, what a guy.
That's right.
Don't hurt yourself, though.
No, that's what it takes. Okay.
I just got to throw in, just because you guys are talking about Pedro Serrano, and I'm like, it was one of the weirdest things about this that I really didn't connect, and I don't know if you, I'm assuming you have know this, that character, that the actor was the guy who was from 24, the president, and he's from the Allstate commercials.
Yeah.
And I even went back and looked at it because I'm like, that's not him. And I went back and I'm looking at the picture of him as Pedro Serrano with the shaved head, and I'm just saying that's not him still. I can't believe that's him still.
You know, at first I didn't think it was, but like in the back of my mind, I'm like, he looks really familiar.
I'm not convinced. I don't believe that that's the same guy, because the guy from the Allstate commercials and as the president has this defining voice and character that is just, you identify him immediately in any other movies he's in. So when he's in, you know, like Far Away from Heaven and different movies, and I see him. But when I go back and I look at Major League, I still don't see it. I don't think it's him.
Do you need him to come on TV and say, "Are you in good hands with Jobu"?
I think he needs it. There needs to be a line. But I mean, you can even go on IMDb and look through the pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And you look through the pictures and you get to the one where he's got the shaved head holding the bat in the locker room. And it looks more like Denzel Washington than it does him. He just doesn't look like him.
Yeah.
Didn't act like him. You could have convinced me that Pedro Serrano was actually Denzel Washington before you could convince me it's this guy. Because he's got such an iconic voice and iconic, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Does everybody know what I'm talking about there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're wrong. But
Knew he was the president from 24 when you were watching Major League. I know, John, you said you didn't realize it right away, but I'm saying, did everybody else, Bo?
Oh yeah,
Really?
I actually knew a long time ago when I first saw 24. I was like, wait a minute, is that? No.
But you've seen, I guess you said you see Major League every year.
Oh my God, I probably saw this when I was 10 years old. My dad showed it to me. I was far too young. I should not have seen this movie at that age. But it was amazing. And it was one of those, like, we thought it was so cool that we were allowed to see a movie where they dropped the F-bomb that much that whenever we would go over to Dad's house, we wanted to watch Major League. I mean, it got to be a little ridiculous at some point. So I can do, my wife will attest to this, I can do lines from this movie walking down the hallway. Like, it's not, I don't even have to think about it. So I heard the voice in 24 and I was like, whoa.
Okay.
No way. And then, of course, I had to go to IMDb and confirm it, because you're right. It's a tough sell mentally.
Well, and the shaved head and all that too.
Yeah.
Stuff too.
oh, he was such a badass as President Palmer on 24.
Mm-hmm.
He was. And then did anyone ever watch The Unit?
No.
He played the lead sergeant on this show about a special forces unit. The show was called The Unit. It was actually pretty good. And Donna had seen Major League, but she didn't really watch 24 as much, but she loved that show. And at one point I just waited till she was real into the show one day. And I said, you know who that is, don't you? And then I told her it was Serrano. She's like, no, I had to literally put the computer in front of her. Oh, it's a tough sell. Don't get me wrong.
But that's one thing the podcast, this, like, even preparing for this podcast made me realize, where I was like, wow, oh my God.
It took me halfway. It took me halfway through the movie to figure out exactly who he was. Like, I was like, I know this guy from somewhere, and I didn't want to look it up. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying. You place it where it was. You think it was someone else, but then halfway through I realized, who he was.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was also the guy. He was the getaway driver in Heat, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'd love to meet his acting coach between point A and point B.
Yeah. Yeah, but his lines too, his dialogue was so good because it's so,
Oh yeah.
it helps it go into that character. Jesus, I like him very much, but he help with curveball.
It's very bad. Drink Jobu's rum. Very bad.
Bats are sick.
Up yours, Jobu.
Up your butt, Jobu.
Hey, bartender, Joe Boo needs a refill.
But I think from a baseball player standpoint, I probably would agree with Bo that if you watch this movie even a couple times, it's so quotable, especially as baseball players. Like there's not there's not, as a PE teacher, like anytime anybody throws something wild, it's like just a bit outside.
Oh yeah, that just comes out. You don't even think, it's automatic.
One of my favorite one that sometimes people don't get right away too is, I'm not thinking of the exact words, but it's like too high. What do you mean too high? I thought it was too high.
The trajectory of the
trajectory,
ball. Yep.
The ball.
Too high, too hard. Too hard. Who gives a crap? It's gone.
Exactly. That's the best part about that whole sequence is how it ends. He's like, who gives a crap? It's a home run.
They're having this whole argument about too high is too high, the trajectory.
Ball 4.
We'll pull that out. My brother
Ball
will
8.
pull that out
Ball
when
12.
we go to a Cubs game.
Yeah.
Big high pop up. We'll look at each other. Too high.
Too high. Yep. That's what we do.
We'll go back to our beer.
I do love. I think one of my favorite parts in the movie is when they carry Willie Mays Hayes out, and you see the practice the next morning, and the camera pans down, and he's asleep on his bed, like outside the fences, and he all of a sudden wakes up. He's like, "Oh, I've been cut already." And then the next scene, you see him just like racing with the other guys, and they're like, "Oh, get that guy a uniform."
Yeah.
This is the guy that wasn't invited to camp.
The slide where he slides short.
Yeah. Nope. Come on.
You guys are like, come on. Yeah. Just gives him the finger.
I did realize, I looked this up. This was also on IMDb. Apparently, there was they called it an elegant Beetle conversion kit that you could buy back in the 70s and 80s. You could buy.
Wasn't it based on like a Cheech and Chong bit or something, or did they use it in that movie too?
They said that it was referenced in Up in Smoke, but they said in the mid 70s to mid 80s, you could buy what was called an elegant Beetle kit. And it was a customized VW Beetle with a Rolls-Royce grill, a replacement trunk, and a hood ornament. And they said they had that up until the mid 80s, and then Rolls-Royce sued the company that was making the conversion kits, and then they didn't do it after that.
Rolls-Royce needs a better sense of humor.
Well, wonder if they have like an elegant Sentra kit. Maybe I could update my car. And
there you go.
Mm-hmm. I didn't realize that Charlie Sheen was actually a baseball player. Like that he was a really good. Apparently, he was a really good high school pitcher, and he was offered a scholarship to was it Kansas? I think it was, and they said that that he actually was a decent pitcher. Like he could throw in I think they said the high 80s, and so they did some camera stuff. They did a few things to kind of simulate that.
Brought the mound closer, shot from behind the catcher, that sort of stuff.
That he was throwing faster, but that helps too when your characters have actually played the sport. And
he even admits to taking steroids to prepare for the role.
I saw that. Yeah,
got him an extra couple miles an hour on his fastball. He swears. Mm-hmm. I just wonder when that interview was, before or after Tiger Blood.
So, did anyone else, or does anyone else have issues watching movies with stars that have gone through some sort of public turmoil, like Charlie Sheen? Like, do you watch this movie now and go, "Oh, Charlie Sheen"?
You cringe a little bit, yeah. Like, yeah.
Or like, like a Mel Gibson movie now, or a Kevin Spacey movie now. Like, you sit there and go, I feel uncomfortable watching this a little bit.
Not really. I try to, they probably were going through junk back then too. I'm sure they were in the middle of doing stuff that nobody had found out about, or nobody cared at that point. But I try, when I look back at people's younger movies, like, until the stuff came out about Kevin Spacey. Kevin Spacey's probably one of my favorite actors. Yeah. And, I still enjoy going back and watching those performances, and to find out that he was doing stuff, years ago before he ever did any of the roles that I loved. And I try to, if he did the things that he did, and if he truly did, then yes, he should have to pay for those things. But you know, for me, it doesn't change. I don't automatically feel like I need to boycott or suddenly distance myself from things that I've always enjoyed in the past. You know, so I didn't, and I wondered that too when you know, I've never been like a huge Charlie Sheen fan, but that never really entered into my mind when I was watching this one, or if I've gone back and I've seen something else that Kevin Spacey has been in, or, you know, even to a certain extent, Bill Cosby. I mean, I don't watch the Cosby Show a whole lot recently, but you know, that there was a lot of really good messages in that show when it was on. And so I don't know. I don't think I personally feel weird. I mean, maybe I have that thought, you know, kind of what you just vocalized. And I was like, oh, that's a shame what happened to him. But I try not to let that color my enjoyment of a movie that has a whole bunch of other people in it.
Well, and like I said, I think you try not to, because yeah, you don't want to diminish the other people's work, the director, the other actors, but it does. There's a thought. You know, there's always a thought that pops in your head. Like with Kevin Spacey, just you know, I showed the before the PSA project, I'll show the Pay It Forward clip where he does a speech in the class, you know, and he challenges the kid with the theme at the beginning. And it's a great like kind of opening segue for that. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm showing him this guy, you know, like. You don't want to take away the script. You don't want to take away the directing. You don't want to take away that piece. But at the same time, there is a thought, a little asterisk that will always be there, just like in baseball with, you know, McGuire and all those people. There's an asterisk, you know, and I feel like it's hard to not completely, you know, just lose yourself in the characters. At some point, you're thinking that's Charlie Sheen still. And you're going, I'm not, you know, you're trying to enjoy it, and you will, and I can still enjoy it. But I'm saying there's a thought process that there is. It's addressed. It's the elephant in the room type of thing. At least it's there. Don't think you're thinking about it. You know, it's that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Same thing with Cosby Show too. It's like, yeah, it's like, darn. I used to love showing that. I used to show it to the kids, and it's like I don't want to not show it because, like you said, it's a good show. But at the same time, it's like, man, I wish I could just show it without having to even, you know, think about that.
Yeah. When all that came out, I did swear that I would never go back and watch Leonard Part 6 ever again.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I'm sure that was the only reason why, right?
Or Ghost Dad or some of those other.
What's weird is I think the Mel Gibson one I don't have as big. I don't know. I think initially, and then that sort of wore off quicker. But I think the Cosby thing there, you know, and Kevin Spacey, obviously, because if those things are true, you know, that's.
Mel Gibson, his thing was just he would get on those rants, right?
He'd be drunk and say stuff and and get on a rant. Pretty much that was the main parts of it. Yeah. And there'd be some racist or homophobic or, you know, comments and stuff. And again, how much is that the drinking? How much is that him? Doesn't excuse it. It just, I don't think there was anything officially criminal or anything like if Kevin Spacey's thing was.
Yeah.
Because like how many Hollywood stars don't, you know, if you're really looking for them as your heroes and role models, I mean, how many of them are, you know, have drug issues and.
Yeah. Well, see, that's the thing. And, you know, it's funny. I read an interview, and I think it was by the cast of the Cosby Show, or it was something in that just, you know, it was don't confuse Bill Cosby with Cliff
Huxtable.
You know, they're not the same. That's, you know.
Yeah.
And so even though one is a fictional character, if you want to look up at that, you know, if you're looking up a fictional character and kind of idolize that or imagine that or, you know, everything like that, that's one thing, but don't. Yeah, that was just kind of that message of trying not to do that.
And I think that's why I try not to have, I don't want to say that I try not to have a problem with it, but I try to make that distinction in my mind that I'm watching a character, that I'm trying not to tie the behaviors of the actor in with this particular character for this particular movie. I think maybe that's, if I'm going to verbalize that, that maybe is the distinction that I make in my own head. But definitely, Dennis, as you said, there's definitely that in the back of your mind, you know, that this person screwed up, that this person did some horrible things. But I think in terms of, you know, watching a movie like this or watching a movie where that's happened to somebody, I think I try to focus on I'm watching this for these fictional characters, not for the not for the actors that portray them.
Yeah. I agree.
All right. Do we have anything else that we want to say about the movie itself before I jump into some of our 5 questions?
I think it's a fun movie.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't expect too much going into it, and just get ready to enjoy. Just laid back fun, craziness about traveling on the road. The hardships that the team does go through. You got the boat propeller in the hot tub. You've got the bus that's falling apart, the plane that's falling apart. But these guys band together and they stick together, and I don't know. It's fun. It's enjoyable.
I told you before, I was excited to see that somebody else owned some of those classic literature comics, just like I have.
Yeah. There you go.
I'm not the only one that has these. All right, so let's get into our and actually I want to see if we can, not that I want to like zip through the 5 questions really super fast, but since we've got everybody here, I want to do our 5 questions, and I want to kind of go through those a little quickly, because we've got Dennis, and we all kind of lamented and said we wish we had Dennis here for Field of Dreams. So I want to actually dedicate some time to talking a little bit about Field of Dreams. So we're probably going to record for like another 2.5 hours after the 5 questions. So yeah. So let's go ahead and do our 5 questions, and then we'll go ahead and we'll give Dennis some time to kind of process his thoughts on Field of Dreams and share some of that stuff with us, and see how much more wrong we can make Pat. So here are our 5 questions for this time. First of the 5 questions is, if you played baseball, what position would you play? Bo.
Catcher.
Okay. Any particular reason?
Well, when I did play, I played catcher, and I liked it. I like being sort of the captain on the field and calling the game from back there. And yeah.
Okay. All right. Dennis, what about you?
Pitcher. I was a pitcher, and I think I read Tom Seaver's it was my Christmas gift for The Art of Pitching by Tom Seaver, and one of his first the first chapters was talking about how you thrive on that, you crave that one-on-one battle between hitter and pitcher, and outthinking the other person, out physically maneuvering the other person and trying to get him hit your pitch, and just the way he really described that duel between pitcher and batter was just something that locked on to me. And so yeah, pitcher.
Okay. All right. And you said you were a pitcher when you played?
Yes.
Yeah. Was there ever a time, even as a pitcher, was there ever a time that you were like, if I wasn't a pitcher, I'd like to try this other position?
Well, I played some third, I played some outfield, and I was a DH for part of it too. And those are all just kind of like weird. It was fun for me. Yeah. Like I had no pressure on myself. If anything, I had too much pressure on myself as a pitcher because I took it so seriously. It was like, religion. It was like just, you had to do this, and you had your routine. And when you went out there and played outfield or third base, man, I was back on the sandlot having fun. So I actually often did better in those positions sometimes because I didn't have the pressure. You're just playing the game.
Yeah. Now, when you were pitching, did you also bat?
Not during college. No, we didn't bat really. And then that's when there was a series of some people sick and injured and stuff. And I actually had to bat in a bases loaded situation, and they had nobody else to go to. So it's like, I guess you're hitting for yourself. And not having taken too much batting practice at all, I just know, okay, as a pitcher, he's going to try and get ahead and throw a first pitch fastball. And I jacked it into center field, and I kind of stood there and looked at it, not cocky, just like, whoa. And then I ended up getting to DH for a while for the remainder of the season as well. So if I wasn't pitching my starting game, I would actually get to hit as well.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. But once they found out that I couldn't hit a curveball, because you didn't take batting practice, so it's like, what the heck is that? I've seen him on this end. I haven't seen him on the other end. Literally, one guy threw me like I think in a game when they figured it out, threw me 7 straight curveballs. I'm not joking. And I remember looking, going like, I swing and I miss. I don't swing, they call it. I'm like, what do I do here? Just throw me a fastball, dude. Come on, don't be a whip about it. You got to throw a fastball.
So you're saying Jobu never helped you?
No, not at all.
He hadn't discovered the joys of voodoo yet.
Yeah.
Not till he made that doll of you, John. I mean,
Okay.
I wasn't supposed to tell that, was I?
I was a first pitch fastball hitter.
Okay.
So that's what I'd go up there looking for, because I always thought, like, okay, as a pitcher, you're going to try and get ahead. Can I come with a kind of a nice fastball right down the middle somewhere, or edge, and look for it and try to jack it. But once you got the breaking balls, it was pretty sad.
Okay. All right. Jeff, what about you? If you played baseball, what position would you play?
Probably the bat boy.
Okay.
Say manager.
If you were forced onto the field to play an athletic position, what would you play?
I'm not what you would call athletic.
Right, but if somebody forced you on it, if everyone else died and they needed another player,
probably left field.
Okay. Any particular reason?
Because that's where you put guys like me.
Okay.
Dennis laughs because he knows it's true.
Okay.
I said manager, man.
See, you know what? I was going to say manager, but then I started really thinking about it. I'm like, I don't think I'm smart enough to manage a team.
So you're saying that you're not going to join the Hawthorne School District softball team?
I'm still waiting for my invitation after being at Hawthorne for 11 years.
Okay. All right. Well, I've been there like 13 years now. I never got one, so maybe don't hold your breath.
Should we start our own Fat Guys League?
We could. Yeah, yeah, 2-man softball league.
We just sit around and talk about what we wish we could do.
Yeah. Just do that for a few days. So actually, why don't we just start a cricket team? Because that's basically what that is.
All right.
Okay. I have the bat, so I'll bring it with me. Pat, what about you? If you had to play baseball, what position would you play?
I would be like the road
quarterback.
I would be like the road. I would make sure people get on the bus. You know what
Okay.
I would make sure
bus manager.
I would be like that. And Dennis, if you remember the cross country season, you're probably laughing when you hear me say that. But I would be the guy that would make sure everyone gets on the bus on time. I would be able to like call and make sure that the hotel room is all set up. I would make that the food was okay.
These are important jobs.
If there was some kind of issue, like I'd be like the button man. Like if someone needed their buttons pushed, I'd push them. Like that kind of
But
thing.
now if it was the physical position on the field.
Yeah, if everybody came down with dysentery and they needed you to play.
I'd be the first guy on the field if there was a fight. Like I don't mind that. Like if they
Yes, you know the positions for baseball.
if we needed to know if we needed to
I think he's having there's a guy at first base, there's second base, third base, short.
I don't know. Who's on
who's on first? What's on second? I don't know who's on third.
I got
aren't there chasers and bludgers and
I can see Pat in the outfield.
Yeah,
he's got the legs for it for sure.
Yeah, I can see him as an outfielder.
All you got to do is teach him to catch a ball, and he could play a mean center with that speed.
Yeah.
Well,
have me in left, have Pat in center. It'd be great.
Pat can cover.
As long as someone would teach, as long as someone would teach me. Otherwise, I'll be the guy that like if the pitcher hits the batter and like the benches have to clear, I'll be the guy that tackles the pitcher.
No, that's an important job too.
Yeah, when we played basketball in school, like that was just my job. Like if we needed to foul someone and take them out of the game, and I could do that without remorse. Like I
should have played hockey.
Yeah, I should have. Skating was an issue, but I'm going to try and remedy that. But if
sounds like a good enforcer.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Like if I had to, like I said, it would all just be watching and saying, "Hey, I think that would be cool to play." I don't know. I love watching. You guys are going to laugh because I'm going to just trip all over myself trying to describe what I'm seeing. It's fun watching the outfield, but it's really fun watching like the baseman and the shortstop, like seeing them work together. And whenever you get like, a double play or something like that, where they like are able to, chuck the ball around, and like everybody running around the bases ends up out. It's really fun watching that. But I I have nowhere near the skill to play any of that. But if we're talking wishes, then if I had to be on the field, I think that would be kind of like the most exciting. Like, I think that would be fun to be a part of. If there's something that I would have a hope or a prayer of doing, maybe if you could teach teach me all the skills I'm missing, it would be the outfield. And then if it didn't have to be athletic, then yeah, I'd just be like the guy that makes sure everyone gets on the bus.
Okay, fair enough. I think for me, I always, as a kid, I never got to play baseball. I don't know what. I remember asking my parents if I could join like a little league team or something like that. I don't know if I can't imagine my dad did, because I think he played baseball as a kid. I don't know if my mom had objections to me playing. And I grew up in Texas, so it's not like you couldn't find a baseball little league team somewhere every 2 blocks. I kept asking if I could play baseball, and I never got a chance to. So I don't know what the reasons were. I don't know that I was ever told the reasons why, but I always wanted to be a catcher. Like, I always thought that to me seemed like the position that I would absolutely love. And so the closest I ever got was when we moved to England. I actually got to play catcher on our cricket team for school. So, you know, that's similar in a sense to baseball. But if I was going to do any position on the field, I probably would do catcher. And I always kind of felt like, Bo, like you said, like you're almost kind of the captain on the field there. And I kind of felt like that was, you know, because I played football, and I always felt like that's the center on the football team. You know, it's the quarterback and the running back and all those guys get all the glory, but I kind of feel like it's the center that's on the line there that's, you know, trying to recognize the defense and, you know, make calls last second. You know, you're making audible calls just like the quarterback's making audible calls, and you're in control of all that. So I always kind of felt like the catcher was probably the closest equivalent to the football center. So that one kind of always would have appealed to me. All right, number 2, favorite baseball related memory, or, and this is, you know, really just for Pat's benefit, if you're not a baseball fan or don't have a baseball related memory, a sports related favorite memory. Mine is real simple. I don't know that I have anything super specific, but I just remember going to a lot of Texas Ranger games with my dad growing up, going together with the whole family, you know, going to games with my dad. And I do remember one of them, I did get to watch Nolan Ryan pitch. So I know that was probably one of my favorite memories of going to the ballpark in Arlington with my dad.
Gosh, a favorite one, that's tough. There's so many, but the first night game I ever went to at Wrigley Field, just the whole thing, just being there at night was cool.
Was that pretty soon after they added the lights?
Yeah, we went that first year. It wasn't. Yeah, we went sometime in September, I feel like, late that year, because I think they turned the lights on in August, I want to say.
August 8th, 1988.
There you go. Yeah, we went sometime in September. Dad got tickets from probably a vendor of his at that time. And we'd been to a ton of games as kids, always during the day. And it's just something different about that first time you go see a ball game at night. I don't know how to describe it. Just the smells, the sounds, they were just a little different. And I don't know, it was cool. But honestly, anytime you walk onto the concourse at Wrigley, it's the next best baseball moment. Mm-hmm. Something about that place.
Yeah, Dennis feels the same way.
Yeah. Is that how you feel at Wrigley, Dennis?
Channeling the spirit of Mr. Rogers. You can't say anything nice. It's funny because I literally like my references to Wrigley Field with kids and stuff, because I've been there a couple times, I've been to some games, and I just felt it was like always like dirty and just I don't know. So whenever there's like something happens at school and kids like have the classroom a mess or whatever, and there's stuff all over, like, you know, you leave somewhere and like you walk away and like people leave bottles and crap everywhere. I'm always like, look at this. You guys picked this up. It looks like Wrigley Field. Like, what is this, Wrigley Field? That's my reference to Wrigley Field in my day-to-day life.
I'm glad you find that humorous.
I do. So Wrigley Field has become synonymous with a mess.
Fred Rogers is not proud of you.
Well, I didn't say anything that bad.
You disappoint Fred Rogers.
You have no idea the thoughts in my head that I could be saying, but yeah.
No,
All right, I
think
guess
I've,
I'll jump in then.
I've kind of an idea.
I'm going to go with like a few different things, though, just a couple really quick. But one is when you say favorite baseball thing, I think back to kind of the Sandlot days with the neighborhood, going with my brother and our neighborhood kids, and we would go to play, a game called Lob, where it was just underhand, sort of like actually it was overhand, but like slow pitch. And you just get out there and be, center field, right field out, if you didn't have enough guys. But the days of just going down, putting your bike on, literally like the movie Sandlot, that was our baseball life growing up. So that's like my ultimate true baseball memory of it. If you want to go professional baseball, then I'm going to go like probably the '83 White Sox winning ugly. My dad was not a big baseball fan. He was he was a swimmer. So I think there was an initial disappointment that we chose baseball over swimming. And for us to get to go to a game with him, because he used to know the Annie Frayne ushers at Comiskey Park, because he worked at IIT, Illinois Institute of Technology down there. So, we got really good seats behind home plate and we'd get to see a game. And I remember walking back and, he bought us the shirts and stuff. And that was kind of rare because it wasn't really like him to necessarily do that because of, it was baseball, and that was what took us away from swimming. So that memory, I think that. And then finally, I would say seeing Tom Seaver pitch as a White Sox. I didn't think that would happen because when I bought the book, he was a New York Met. And then all of a sudden, this guy that I had idolized as reading the baseball stuff becomes a White Sox, and I get to see him in a White Sox game. So that was pretty cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'm struggling to come up with one memory. I wish I could remember my first game at Wrigley. I know
it was a mess.
It'd be like walking into Dennis's classroom.
If he could reproduce that smell in his classroom, I'd be there every day.
I don't know, man. You should step in his classroom
Beer
just once.
Piss.
And hot dogs.
Beer, piss,
Damn
hot dogs, cigar.
Civil. Keep it civil.
I'm certain my
And the
first.
stench of 100 years of law losing.
All right, you had your turn. Shut up.
That's it. Now you've crossed the line.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, man.
Can't we mute him,
Yeah, I can. You want me to?
please?
Can't he just give me one day to enjoy
The
my
smell
team
of death
losing
of everyone's
before he
hopes for
starts?
how many years?
Oh, man. Oh, man.
I'm pretty sure that my first game would have been with my family, but I just have no recollection of when that would have been. But I think it's going to my first Cubs convention with my dad was awesome, and just he and I both meeting, Ryan Sandberg and Andre Dawson and Ernie Banks and Gary Matthews, and I mean the list goes on and on. I literally walked into Gary Matthews. I stood up from a table and turned around and walked right into the guy. As we were leaving the hotel and convention center, Randy Hundley was walking in, and meeting Andy Pafko. Just really cool stuff. Those sorts of memories. Being at David Ross's last home game in 16 was really neat and really neat to experience. And then in 17, going to a game and being able to wear a World Series ring was incredible. Just a really neat moment of, being able to just have that ring on my hand was just awesome. So there you go.
That's cool. I noticed that you didn't mute Dennis during the entirety of your discussion there.
I don't know how to unmute him.
Oh, okay. Do you want me to unmute him, or he's talking right now? Do we really want to let him back in here if he's good, or?
I suppose we'll see what happens.
Okay. All right. I'll go ahead and do it.
Did you guys really mute Dennis?
Yeah, Jeff did.
Yeah, I did.
We can mute each other? That's outstanding.
Apparently, I thought I was the only one that could do that, but
Jeff, I'm just, and if I don't want to like cut too close to the bone here, but I maybe my favorite, well, no, it's not my favorite, but baseball memory, but I just remember like when the Cubs won, Dennis started heckling as soon as he set foot in the building, right?
Yeah.
And I just remember Jeff's reaction.
I recall.
Do you remember this? Like, and Dennis
Yeah.
would only like, and Dennis was so mad by the time that the Cubs had won. It like each time he talked, he was more angry about it. And then the only thing he would say would be like Chapman and Bartman, where he would just say two words. And then Jeff, your line was just, and it's just like, I just want a day. I just, can I just have a day? Can I just enjoy one day with my team, please? Please,
Give me one day to enjoy this before you start tearing it down.
I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna just clarify.
Oh.
Did you mute him again?
Good Lord.
Oh my God.
We'll just let him keep going. It's fine.
Oh,
He doesn't realize he's muted. It's great.
These things happen in the preceding days or weeks, but once they won, I let you enjoy it.
You did
I did
not
not
let
say
me enjoy
I
it.
did not heckle.
You did not.
Yes,
you,
I did.
You came down to my classroom. You're like, no, you have
No.
to admit, Madden almost managed him right out of there. You have to.
That was 3 days
No.
later. I waited. I gave myself a 3-day grace period, and then I unloaded.
It's funny how you remember history wrong.
oh my God. Oh my gosh, that was funny. Oh my God.
I don't know. Maybe it was because when the White Sox won, we had one day where we could wear jeans. When the Cubs were even in the playoffs, it was pretty much like 6 months of wear whatever the hell you want as long as you have a Cubs jersey.
And what's the problem?
It got a little old.
He just didn't like seeing how good you looked in jeans, Jeff. That's all it is.
My daughter had an issue too because apparently the high school was like, yeah, you don't have to show up, Bo. You don't have to show up when there's the parade. You could just skip school that day because we all
Yes,
understand.
That
When the
is
White
true.
Sox, you would have been the truant officers would have been all over you if you even took a half day off to enjoy the White Sox. I'm just saying, you know.
Yeah, but who
just-
enjoys the White Sox anyway? I don't know what you're talking about.
For the record, I did show up to school the day of the parade, even though
As did I.
I put in my time correctly, and
Well, Autumn said it was a waste of time to go to school that day anyway because all they did at the high school was watch the parade on TV.
well, that's all I did in my classroom
That
that day.
qualifies as a wonderful educational experience.
The superintendent sent out that message saying that we're not supposed to go because there's too many people requesting off. So I didn't go, and it it really bums me out because my dad and I were planning on going together, and because of that message from the superintendent, I didn't go, and I didn't get to experience that with my dad. So that still bums me out.
Dude, I would have let you go.
Why weren't you superintendent?
Yeah, what the heck, man?
I don't know why you listened. I would have gone, man. Because heck, one less Cub fan at the school that day would have been better off for me.
Because Jeff doesn't have 1 foot in Illinois and 1 foot in California, and he enjoys being employed.
I wasn't tenured yet.
You have a good point there, John.
Yeah. All right, Pat, I know this is kind of a loaded question for you. What's your favorite baseball memory?
Other than being at school,
Podcast.
wait. Other than being at school and like talking to Dennis and Jeff and you and everybody, like when the Cubs won the World Series, that was pretty awesome. Just being involved in that whole thing that we just discussed. Seriously though, you know what? I've told this to people too when I'm trying to convince people to like, go check out car racing or check out something, it's another sport. I say, always go see it live. Don't watch it on TV. When you see something live, kind of as it was intended to be enjoyed, you're going to enjoy things far more now. And that's kind of how I feel about baseball. Like the times that I've been able to get to a baseball game, is just awesome. And I wish I could pick one. But I mean,
There's so many you've been to.
Well, and it's funny, and maybe so many. I mean, that's a a relative term, but I mean, I've been to Wrigley to see the Cubs. I mean, I think from when I remember my mom took me and my brother when we were pretty young. I've been to Comiskey probably the most. And I say Comiskey because I was at Old Comiskey, then I was at New Comiskey, and then I was at the Cell. And I know that the Cell and New Comiskey are the same place, but like the name kept changing. And so there were a couple times I would go and like the name would be different. And I've been I've been in like the upper deck, which was exciting because those are the seats that like feel like you're going to fall off them because they're so tall. I've been in skyboxes. I've been in like, you know, a bunch of different things. I've been to the Brewer Stadium. I've been to watch the Twins play. I mean, and it's just like each one is like a different experience, and it's fun to check it out and to see something live. You know, especially professional sports live. It's just exciting and you know, I can't pretend to be an expert by it, but it's just fun and going and seeing something live. So that would be my favorite memories. Just anytime I got a chance to see a game, and from the different stadiums, and you know the handful of stadiums I've been to, that's kind of a cool. It was a cool thing.
Nice. Yeah. Before we go on to our next question, I will back up a little bit, and I will say, Dennis, it's actually because of going to a game at Comiskey. It's because of the White Sox fans that I became a Cubs fan. Because I went when we first moved here. See, I come from Texas, where we
had this conversation. I think we had this conversation.
Yeah, I come from Texas, where we love sports. We love sports in Texas. We don't have a problem with other people. We just love sports, no matter what it is. And so here I am. I come to Chicago. I don't realize that there's this apparently intense rivalry between the Cubs and the Sox. So as an innocent child who came from another place,
John, were you truly an innocent child, though?
Maybe at that point. Until this happened. And at that point, I grew up and I realized that, you know, people's is people's and all that stuff.
People's, okay.
Is potatoes, is people's. And I wore a Cubs hat to Comiskey. And I did not realize that that would be a problem for someone. And I had a hot dog thrown at my head.
Are you sure they weren't giving you one and being kind?
No, because it was half eaten and it had a whole bunch of stuff all over it. And it was airborne. They were throwing it right at me. And it was, so because of that, I decided, terrible. I decided that day that I was a Cubs fan. I had not made a decision up to that point. Didn't know I needed to make a decision.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Throwing a hot dog at you makes you go to a Cub fan, yet death threats against a guy named Steve Bartman make you go, I want to be a Cub.
I told you Bartman and Chapman. I knew it was going to come back.
Hey, Cubs fans never mistreated me. Whatever beef they have with somebody else, that's between them.
You know,
that's how bullying's solved.
You know, you talk about the rivalry thing, John. It's pretty funny. My wife and I, we were on vacation a couple of years back. We went to Boston. I love the city of Boston. I mean, I was there once. I could move there. I mean, I really enjoyed being in Boston. And I picked up I got a Red Sox hat. And I'm not going to pretend that I'm suddenly a Boston Red Sox. I wasn't going to be like, oh, this is my adopted team. It's just, I thought the hat was cool. I love the city, so I got a Red Sox hat. And it's funny because I was sitting there and we got on the plane to come home, and the plane was like crowded, and I was playing in a friend's wedding, so I had my trumpet and I brought it as carry-on. So you have a little bit of extra luggage that you're trying to stow and everything. And the guy I was sitting right next to, it was kind of crowded. You're bumping into and trying to get all settled. And I looked at, I'm like, hey, I'm really sorry. I'm like, I'll get all this settled down. Just give me a second. And I had the Boston, and I totally forgot. He goes, hey, don't worry about it. Anything for a Sox fan. Don't worry about it. You want something to drink? I'll get you a drink. And it was like
nice.
It was. I'm really glad he wasn't a Yankees fan. I mean, it was
right.
Like, but it wasn't even a joke. It was just like, hey, don't worry about it. Anything for a Sox fan. And being from Chicago, my reaction was, Sox fan. How does it took me a minute to realize. Oh yeah, that's right. They refer to the Red Sox as the Sox. Yeah. So it was kind of a fun thing, and I ended up striking up a conversation with the guy, and we talked for the entire 2-hour flight or whatever. But he was under the impression I was a Red Sox fan, and that was that.
Well, and just for the record, just to back this up, and I
have the mute button ready.
I apologize for your unfortunate hot dog incident at Comiskey Park when you were wearing the Cubs hat. But just overall, just so you know that if you were to poll nationwide fans and everybody, pretty much, anybody who's a baseball fan, the Cubs are right there with, I believe, Boston, New York as some of the most obnoxious and rudest fans. Just saying. So the friendly confines is kind of, not necessarily accurate all the time.
Here we go.
Can you cite your source, please, other than your own invention?
Go look at every rating. They're online.
What rating?
I'll post them up. I'll share them.
Yeah, please
Polls.
send me your ratings
Surveys.
that you're quoting.
Surveys.
Surveys. First surveys done on the south side.
All right, it's getting late. Can we move on to the next damn question?
We're moving on to the next question.
I thought we were going to go through this real quick, so Dennis could take us 3 hours to talk about Field of Dreams.
Right. Well, we were supposed to, and then we unmuted Dennis, so that was a mistake. All right. So number 3, favorite sports-themed comedy movie.
Cub fans.
And I will start off by saying I had a little bit of trouble with this one because I made the mistake of starting to list out the sports-themed comedy movies I could think of, and of the ones that I listed out, I listed out at least, I want to say like 10 to 12 in my first listing. And I narrowed that down to, I think, what would be my top 3. My top 3 would be Kingpin, Caddyshack, and The Sandlot. And I think of those 3, I might have to go Sandlot.
Is Sandlot a comedy?
Well,
I guess.
Yeah.
See, when I hear sports themed comedy, I'm thinking something like either Caddyshack or Basketball.
Okay. Well, if you don't accept Sandlot, then I got to go Caddyshack.
That's your show, man. It's your list. You
Well,
put on what you want.
Of the 3 movies that I had as my finals, of those 3, my favorite of those 3 is The Sandlot. If Sandlot's not enough of a comedy, then I'll go Caddyshack. So that's mine. Favorite sports themed comedy movie. What do you got?
Major League would probably be mine.
Okay.
I might have to go Basketball.
I haven't seen Basketball.
Oh God, I love that movie so much.
Oh,
I'll lend it to you and make sure you watch it without the kids.
it's
Okay.
been far too long since I've seen it, but God, is it good?
Pat Dennis.
I gotta go with Dodgeball.
Darn it, I
solid.
should have, but it wasn't. It's Caddyshack, but then
Okay.
Dodgeball's in there.
Dodgeball was on my list too.
Mm-hmm.
If you could dodge a wrench.
You can dodge a ball.
Oh my God.
Exactly.
All right, Dennis, you said Caddyshack for yours.
I would say Caddyshack first. Again, I kind of throw Sandlot not necessarily in that category of comedy. It's got more heart in it than the other ones. I feel like it's also that piece, but I agree with you. If I were, it probably would be more, probably more enjoyable to keep watching over Caddyshack. But I've seen Caddyshack 1,000 times.
Okay.
Not sure. Happy Gilmore.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was on my list.
Happy Gilmore, Dodgeball. I'm just trying to think of the ones offhand that kind of came to mind. And if you want to go far back, which I would, this one popped into me, which would be
Bad News Bears.
No. We're going way back. We're a big fan of
Horse Feathers.
Brothers. Horse Feathers, I think it was. Wasn't that one with the
the college football? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
God, that was just on TV the other day.
Wasn't?
Yeah, it was awesome.
And then I don't know, League of Their Own, maybe. I mean,
but see, I put that in the same.
You think that's more drama still?
Well,
is Bull Durham and League of Their Own kind of the same category? Is that a comedy or?
Yeah, and
I think there's more like slapstick comedy, and then there's more kind of dramatic comedy, and there's 2 categories, and each of those.
I put Sandlot in that same category.
Drama comedy, yes, I would too. Yeah, because then you could throw a Slapshot in there as well. I mean, that's the hockey one, I think. And then Paul Newman.
What about Cool Runnings? Yeah. That's a good sports comedy.
That was my initial list.
Yeah.
My initial list was Happy Gilmore, Waterboy, Kingpin, Caddyshack, the 74 version of The Longest Yard, Dodgeball, Cool Runnings, Major League, Nacho Libre. I had
Nacho Libre. Oh my God, yeah.
Did you tell them they were the Lord's chips? And then Back to School. I had Back to School too. Even though Back to School, I don't know if we want to call that a sports
It's not
comedy because there is a sport in it, but it's not really. That's not the focus of it.
I don't know. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Just like The Wizard for next week is Rain Man for kids.
Mm.
Yeah, think about that for a while. The Power Glove.
All right. Have we all answered question 3?
So bad. Yeah, I think we did. All right. Number 4, if you were a
What are you trying to
reliever,
say, Jeff?
I'm trying to say that we're going on 2 hours yet, and we still haven't talked to Dennis about Field of Dreams.
well, you kept muting him, so
And you're welcome for that.
If you were a reliever, what would your intro song be? Mine's easy. I got to go back to when I played when I was the mascot for the high school lacrosse team. I dressed up as Death, the Grim Reaper, and my intro song when I would come out to the games was Metallica's "For Whom the Bell Tolls." So I'll just keep that as my intro song as a closer or reliever.
I've got 2.
Yeah.
Either Crazy Train or Fanfare for the Common Man.
I
Nice.
like that.
A little Aaron Copland.
There you go. Pat, did you need us to explain what a reliever is, or are you okay?
No, I'm pretty.
Pat, it might not be what you think it is.
Hey now.
It's the player that makes everybody feel better.
If I make a comment on the Google Hangout and no one else is around to hear, am I still wrong?
Yes.
Probably.
Yes, you are.
Second. If I was gonna come, I'd probably come out to Sinatra's "Fly Me to the Moon" or something like that. I'd come out in style.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
All right. Bo, did we get yours?
No, I'm still processing.
Okay. Dennis, you got one?
In my dreams, it would be something maybe like Final Countdown, but in reality, it would be the Beatles. I'm a loser because I was a horrible, horrible reliever.
Okay.
You don't like cleaning up someone else's mess.
No, I don't, and I was not good at it. I can't. I needed like a good half hour to get warmed up. I had a routine. And if in the one game I came in, literally it was like I hit the bull. It was like the umpire was on the side. I almost killed the umpire during my warm-ups. I was all over the place. I walked the first 7 guys, I think.
Just a bit outside.
I said that about 14 times. Yeah.
Ball 8.
It was 30 to my. It was.
Whoa.
I was wearing like 3 pairs of sweatpants, sweatshirt, and it was off the lakefront downtown, and I ended up. It was about 30 something degrees.
Oh.
So yeah, it was tough. But I was not I was ready to go home. And then all of a sudden it was, hey, warm up, you're going in for the last inning. And I'm like, why? The game's blown away already. And you're putting me I think I got 3 warm-up tosses on the side because the catcher who was going in too was also getting off sweats and everything else. And yeah, so it was pretty ugly. So I was not a good reliever.
All right. Bo, did you figure yours out?
Yeah, that's a tough one. All the music in the world, and I'm coming up with a complete blank right now.
Another one bites the dust.
Yeah,
I was
something.
just thinking that.
Yeah, some stadium anthem. So yeah, we'll go with Another One Bites the Dust. Why not?
Okay. All right. Final question: if there is there a major league ballpark? Pat, you listed off a whole bunch of them. Is there a major league ballpark you've never been to that you'd like to see a game in?
Yes, there's a lot of them.
So many.
Is there one in particular?
many.
If you were told that you can only go see one, is there
Can it
one
be
ballpark?
Can it be a stadium they've already torn down?
Sure.
Oh, see.
It's got to be Old Yankee Stadium.
Okay.
That's the one place that I really wish I'd made it to.
That would be on my list to be the old Yankee Stadium. I think I put Fenway, and as I've said before,
I made it to Fenway last summer, and that was huge.
Fenway's great.
Yeah. And I've said it before. I'm not as much of a baseball fan as you guys are, but just when I think about just the classic stadiums, I would love to go check out Fenway. I mean, I've been to
a work trip. I got a ticket, went and sat by myself.
Nice,
it's fantastic.
Yeah. So that'd probably be mine. If we could do stadiums that are no longer there, I'd probably do Yankee Stadium. But
yeah, Yankee Stadium.
If you can't narrow it down, that's okay, Jeff.
So yeah, definitely Yankee Stadium, old Yankee Stadium for sure. I think Ballpark at Arlington and Camden Yards.
Camden, solid choice.
I think those two for sure. I would love to experience. Although Ballpark at Arlington is no longer called the Ballpark at Arlington. I believe it's got a new name, but
and they're building a new one anyway.
Right.
I'll always refer to it as Ballpark at Arlington.
Yeah.
I mean, I would agree with your Yankee Stadium, some of the classics, but for me, just if I go to one that's rebuilt, it would be just the original Comiskey, just because of the nostalgia effect of I remember the glowing green grass, when you walked in and the sunlight was hitting it at the right thing. And I just remember those more, my first trips to a ballpark like that and seeing that, being like, wow, like a cathedral, like the way it just lit up.
Yeah, I saw one game in the old Comiskey Park before they tore it down. It was fun.
Yeah.
It was a 13-inning rain delay. We were there all freaking day in the bleachers. It was a blast, though.
Yeah. And I remember Greg Lazinski or Tom Kittle hitting balls on the roof out of the park, actually. Closest thing to kind of the natural, where he hits the lights. It just sort of
I remember seeing Kittle hit one over the roof.
Yep. Nice. Greg Lazinski had his bullpen section, he would buy out and give tickets to disadvantaged kids, and he had that whole section, and just the whole hey goodbye, when the whole place is rocking and that's going on.
Cool.
That was always awesome. So
let's not forget it was also the home of Disco Demolition Night.
Steve Dahl, yeah.
All right, Pat, did you have one of all those ones you listed earlier? Do you have one in particular?
Okay, so I just want to real quick. I'm gonna pivot. I'm gonna cede my question. I'm just gonna tell a quick story, and I promise to be quick. But I don't know if you guys know Brian O'Connor. He taught nearby us, and he worked with at our summer music camp. He's a band director. He's a huge baseball fan, and he was talking to us. He's worked our summer music camp. One summer that he and some buddies went consecutively and saw a game at all. I don't know the exact number, but every single major league ballpark, they went consecutively, and they did a huge road trip, and it took them a couple months, and they hit every ballpark in a row. And
nice.
It was, and he said they planned it for a year, because they had to find and be okay, well, we're gonna drive here and we're gonna drive here. And it wasn't work yourself across the country, because the games might not be consecutive. So you had to they had to do some crazy driving halfway across the country overnight to get to the game. And he said it was great. How many teams are there? I mean, how many different ballparks are there? Major League Baseball. Anybody?
30?
Yeah, is it 30?
Yeah, it's 30.
Yeah.
So that's what they did. They just went and they saw a game in each one. And it was crazy because he could compare them all. So you say, which one do you want to see it in? He'd say, well, if you want to see a game downtown, do here. The one with the best family experience is here. The Tampa Bay Rays, there's a petting zoo on the outfield where you can go pet Rays, sea Rays. He was
there's a hot tub in Phoenix.
Yeah, and he said where the Giants. San Francisco Giants, right? Yeah.
Yep.
He said that one is because you can look out over the bay when it was just his stories. It was pretty cool. So I'm gonna I don't know which one I'd like to go do, but that would be a heck of a road trip. Just to like see every
Yeah, it would.
stadium consecutively and just compare them all. So sorry, I'm not gonna reject the question. I'm just gonna do a politician. I'm gonna pivot and give my own answer.
Hey, no, fair enough. That's fine. That's good. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for Major League. I do want to give Dennis a little bit to kind of talk about some of the Field of Dreams stuff, because I know you were gonna call into the voicemail, and then I think you just kind of were like, no, I got too many thoughts going on. I just need to like be in
Yeah, I was just
on
saying
the
it was
recording
hard
with us.
because-
And
You got
hard
ten-
because
you got 10
you're
minutes,
listening to the
Jeff-
when you're listening.
Jeff says
Oh,
you have 10 minutes.
and then
Okay.
I'm muting you.
When you're listening to the podcast, it's hard because you want to jump in at certain spots and say something.
Right.
That's why it's just hard to record it after. And I'm just, I don't know. So this might not even be, enough to do it justice. But it just, no, I just feel I kind of got a vibe of what you guys were saying with a lot of the different stuff. And aside from Pat being wrong, no, Pat was actually right. Pat was pretty good in a lot of it. Trying to think what came up with your big some of the big things that you guys had. So if it's late, we can always do it on a different day anyway. But I think I was just going to ask some questions about like what you thought, like if you were to ask, or if you were to sum up, what is the theme of that movie or themes? Because Jeff, you said it's not about baseball. It's about more than baseball, which I agree with you. But so what is it? What is if you were to sum it up, what would be the themes?
I think acceptance and redemption.
So what would be the acceptance?
Accepting, having to accept where you are in life to then be able to work towards redemption.
Okay.
So like not carrying around guilt, not carrying around regret, but instead just accepting these are the things that have happened. I can't change any of this. I need to accept it for what it is. And then maybe once you accept it, you have the opportunity to somehow redeem yourself.
Okay, so who was redeemed in that film?
Well, I think that Ray, experienced some redemption because he was able to, once he accepted the fact that, his dad wasn't a bad guy, he was able to then have that moment of redemption of introducing him to his family and giving his dad what he wanted, just a game of catch. I think that Terrence Mann found redemption because he was so anti-baseball, and talk about how he never gave the interview that sent Ray to find him, and he didn't know what Ray was talking about, and he was able to then he was able to accept what baseball meant to him, and he found redemption then in that.
Okay.
I think those would be the two. Well, and Shoeless Joe and the ball players, they were able to find redemption to be able to play ball again. They accept what they did was wrong, and then they're able to have this opportunity to come back and play ball.
I think if I'm going to piggyback on that, I think you just said, I was trying to think of a way to sum it up in one word, because I kept thinking it's like getting that one more shot. But I think I'd sum up the theme of the movie as being opportunity, like to have that opportunity to play one more time. To, if you were a player that you only had the one at bat, have the opportunity. Everybody wanted something, whether they were alive or dead. Everybody had something they wanted that they didn't quite get to fulfill, that one thing that they wanted to do, or they wanted one more chance to do something that they really, whether it's full-blown regret or whether it's just, I missed my shot, or I loved it so much. I wish I could do this one more time. I wish I could, play catch with my dad. We played catch maybe growing up, but then we grew apart as I got older, and I never got to play catch with him as an adult. And I wish You know, knowing what I know now as an adult, I wish I could go back and have conversations with my dad that, you know, as a stupid teenager, you know, whatever Ray might have said in the movie, as like a stupid teenager, stupid college kid, I didn't know what I know now to be able to have those conversations. So maybe a good theme for it too would be opportunity, like wanting to have one more shot at something.
Okay. No, because I mean that's I guess some of the things that came up, and you know, and again, I'll agree, probably a lot of those. And I think the more I thought about the movie, and I think as I changed as I got older, and I think it's one of those things that will change too. Maybe even for you guys, I think it's an interesting viewing. Like later on, as you keep watching it, now you guys are fathers, and that's going to be interesting. You know, you've been sons, you've been on that role of it, and then you become the father role, and you'll be able to see it from both sides of that perspective, I think, eventually. And it just, I think it adds different dimensions that I quite haven't had completely figured out myself in many ways, I think. But I think regret is a big one. And when I think about, like, you know, who's he forgiving? A lot of people will say, well, it's him forgiving his dad, or
it's forgiving himself.
You know, forgiving himself is ultimately, is what it is, because, and it's the dad who had at some point, because the mysterious line is there, if you build it, he will come, you know. And then at the end, when he says it's you, Ray, you know, or it's you, I just think that element of it is about him, really, because what he did was he basically rejected what his father loved. He rejected the game of baseball because it became, remember, he says it was like bringing out the trash. It became just pressure and everything else. And how many fathers haven't done that to their kids, where they feel like they put certain pressure on them? So for me, it was like I referred to a little bit earlier, with swimming. I was supposed to be a swimmer. You know, we were supposed to be the marathon swimmers. That was my dad's thing. I remember my brother sort of saying, like, kind of like, who wants to swim 25 miles? Well, that's something that was such a big thing for my dad, that he had to take that as a hurt, as a disrespect of what he did. You know, I didn't say it, but we got grouped together because me and my brother were like, you know, like almost like twins. So we were playing baseball, and it was like we were rejecting swimming for baseball. And in this story, basically, Ray rejects, you know, his dad's love of baseball. Not only that, does he say that probably the most hurtful thing, which I think was a key line in the story that seems to get sometimes, it was that I could never respect a man whose hero was a criminal.
Right.
You know, so the person that he idolized, and for his dad to lose that respect, and then he refers to him as kind of like this old next, you know, when I saw him, he was already beaten up by life. And, you know, I think it was that chance for Ray not just to, like you said, not to forgive his dad, because he realized that growing up, like, you know, but I think to realize that he had to forgive himself for hurting his dad so much. And his dad probably in the afterlife, whatever, I would think hypothetically, kind of forgave him, his son, but still, you know, had to come back in this time period and get that, you know, back when he loved to play baseball again, and he gave him that opportunity. Now, the other thing with Archie, with Graham, because what's his regret? Because I don't know if he really has one.
Yeah.
I think that's the second message of the film. And again, when I walk away now, is, so there's the one about regret, about, you know, being careful what you say to people. You know, it's the last time you're going to see them, and then hold on to that pain for both people is such a torture that it got to ease both of their pain in the end. With Archie Graham, I think there's another theme in there, in which was sometimes kind of like your best, your dreams, your goals, even when they don't turn out, you know, it doesn't mean that that's always going to be a whole. It means that there's other things that can be even better out there. Because he denies it. He's like, no, I don't need to go. Like, I don't want to. So that's always, that part of the story has always kind of hit me sort of weird, because he's dead when he goes back to see him. He's already died. And then he meets him in his kind of time warp weird thing, which is 1972. And then he gets the kid as he picks him up as a kid on the side of the road. So it's the only one that really is very weird magically, that is almost forgiven by people, I think. And like, how do you, I was kind of thinking of that, because when I first remember seeing it, I kept thinking like he meets him when he's alive, but really he meets him in 1970 something, doesn't he?
Right.
Yeah. So he's meeting the ghost of him already and having that conversation. And then he's meeting the younger version of him on the side of the road. So that stories are just an interesting, why do they put, what's the message of the Archie Graham story? Because it's not the same as Shoeless Joe. It's not the same as Ray and his dad. it's a very different story in my life. Or sorry, in his life, I feel like it's something very different. And I don't know if anybody had thoughts about that. Like,
well, I still thought he had he didn't have the regret that he wished he didn't become a doctor, but he did. I mean, I think he did say he had that regret that just he wished he had that chance to have that at bat, to stare down the pitcher, to wink at him.
He didn't really
call it. Rejects it and says
he didn't really call it a regret, though. He called it a wish. This would be my wish.
There's a thin line between a regret and a wish.
Yeah, I guess.
But yeah.
So I mean, I guess the that element of that story to me is just kind of like that idea of that, even because I think everybody has to live with that. Like, how many kids didn't have the dream to be the baseball player, and literally it was. I think when I went to Field of Dreams, I think I had already told some of you guys this. I went, and my kids were too young to really know about baseball that much yet, and really appreciate it or love it like I did. So it was actually a somewhat mixed feeling there. It was like great seeing the field, but then they didn't quite get it. And they were kind of like, all right, where are we going next? And I felt that they kind of disrespected the place in a way, like for me, because it was like, wait, this is like, important. And they didn't think that. So it's interesting to see that element to it. And I remember like almost tearing up in the outfield, just like thinking like I could have been playing on the field. Like I could have been, it literally was like religion for us. It was life. It was what you were going to do. It was you were going to play baseball. And it comes to probably like just saying my favorite, I think kind of line of that. And I don't know if I think you guys went over. Did you guys go over favorite quotes and stuff during that? I think I remember.
We kind of we kind of did. I think we realized it was kind of tough to do. But, yeah.
So, I mean, there's the big long speech with, obviously James Earl Jones and stuff. For me, it's the one with by Shoeless Joe, where he's talking about the smell that you ever smell a glove, close to your face. Mm-hmm. And I would have played for free, basically, that whole thing. That was me growing up. That was me in high school. That was me in college. That was always going to be like, just let me play for free. I just want to play, just smell the grass or something about that. So that kind of character, I think him getting to do that, and does he have regret for what choices he made, whether he did or didn't, take money and bribery and stuff. Getting banned from the game is like torture. So for him to be able to get back. So each of them had their regrets. Archie Graham's, I didn't see as much of a regret. So it's like, what is the message there? And like you said, I mean, we just covered that, but I'm like, that's one of the things I think as I keep seeing that story over there, that Archie Graham story tends to be a weird, why did they put that in there? Mm-hmm. And I think doing things that people don't always expect you to do. Like he had to go out and kind of appear to be nuts to do something too. And I think it's a leap of faith message as well.
Agreed.
So
okay, all right. Was there anything else you wanted to get off your chest as related to the movie, or
any specific wrong Patness that needs to be discussed?
Well, when we have time, I'll
cover that at lunch.
Yeah, I'll cover how that conversation like exactly came down when we have more time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely need the background. Not that I'm not enjoying it, but
yeah, it's just I'll just say that it's amazing that a movie of such affirmation and positivity and how it takes something that can be baseball. I mean, it can be, there is like any sports, money and the corruption and the very but this movie shows it in its purest form and the thing that we all love and.
It reminds us of what was once good.
Right, exactly.
And could be again.
All those things, how in extolling its virtues, it brought out feelings of derisiveness and xenophobia among the people debate. That was the thing that I found amazing the most,
Wow.
Xenophobia.
The metaphor of the flying hot dog.
I am
Yeah.
intrigued.
Well, John,
Let's-
there's your episode title.
There you go.
The metaphor
Or
of the flying hot dog.
There
We
we
were
go.
just trying to eat some roadie.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was eating roadie, all right. Believe me. Yeah, yeah. Do you remember how in the movie that the brother-in-law that was blind and then could see, but then was welcomed in, and that at the end, people showing up, they're not sure why, but let's welcome them in and show them this wonderful thing. Yeah, that was kind of turned on its ear, So it like I said, it was priceless and precious and fun, and yeah, it was pretty funny how it all came down.
All right. Well, we can expound more upon that in a future episode.
Yes.
So I think that's going to do it tonight for us for Major League. So our next few episodes, if you want to kind of look ahead to our other episodes, we're going to finish off our month of sports movies. Next week, do you guys have a Power Glove that you could like pull out of the attic somewhere and put on and wear
Oh my
while
God.
we're podcasting?
I will have to ask my brother.
It's so
'cause he
bad.
might have one.
I love the Power Glove. It's so
I
bad.
don't
It's so bad.
I don't think I've ever played a game with the Power Glove.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, not a video game.
Hey now.
Oh boy.
That's a different movie.
This isn't jazz band rehearsal. We can't talk about that.
Oh man.
Oh man, if only people knew.
Yeah.
And they won't, and they shouldn't. So our next episode coming up next week will be The Wizard, starring Fred Savage, and then Rutger Hauer in The Blood of Heroes will finish out our month of sports movies. And then in March, we're going to be doing Glory, The Burbs, Turner and Hooch, War of the Roses, and sometime during the month of March, we will have a Captain Marvel episode because that movie is coming up. We're actually coming up really quickly on some major movies. Captain Marvel coming out in March, and then Endgame. I almost said Infinity War. Endgame coming out in April. So we're getting very, very close to some very major things coming out here very soon. So, but those will be our next several movies. So if you want to kind of watch and get ahead of those before we do our episodes, that is the schedule coming up. Wizard, Blood of Heroes, Glory, The Burbs, Turner and Hooch, The War of the Roses, and Captain Marvel. In the meantime, why don't you go check out our website, 30podcast.com. That has our Twitter account name, our voicemail number. It's 872-356-6843. If you want to jump in on the conversation here, leave us a voicemail. We'll play it on the show and we'll respond to it. But I think that's going to do it for us this time around. So thank you, Bo, Dennis, Pat, and Jeff. Thank you guys for being here and enjoyed the conversation and even the parts where Dennis talked and said things out of his mouth about teams that he apparently knows nothing about. But thank you guys so much for being here. And it's okay. We can still mute you. It's all right. So that's going to do it for this time around. And we will see you all back here next week for The Wizard. Be excellent to each other. Be excellent to each other, unless your name is Dennis.
My favorite baseball moment is Steve Bartman's birthday. All right.
Be excellent to each other. Go watch some good movies, and we'll see you all back here next
Showed
week.
what true Cub fans were. All right.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Gracie.
You notice how Jeff jumped out on you just right as you said that.
What did you?
Jeff left the call just as you said that.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh.
I think Jeff. Are you putting up your middle finger towards Jeff? Or towards Dennis? Is that what you're doing?
No, my system just crapped out, so I had to restart. Why? What happened? What I miss?
Oh, he made some comment about how Bartman's birthday was his favorite holiday.
My favorite baseball moment.
and then you jumped off the call, and I thought, oh, well, Jeff did that on purpose.
Oh my god.
Well, I was attacked.
That was just a happy
I was
accident.
Okay.
I was attacked in the closing, just so you know.
You getting your ears all clean there, Dennis?
Yeah, I am. I can't believe the crap I'm hearing about the Cubs.
I'm just gonna say, I think that is my favorite baseball memory. Is being at work with all of you guys and hearing the discussion and just like that whole thing is just, oh my god, that is priceless. That is absolutely
I was good.
Should we be stopping the Audacity thing? Or
We're not doing Audacity this time.
see, nobody tells me anything.
There you go.
He showed up late. That's what happened.
Yeah, that's all
It's true.
Says Dennis, who barely shows up
How dare you have the audacity to talk to me that way?
Well, to be fair,
my.
to be fair, Jeff, we've been doing a lot of these on Google Hangouts, and nobody has sent him any Uber Eats or DoorDash food. So
Is that why he's so cranky?
might be.
He's
an angry elf.
hangry.
He's an angry elf.
Hey, if we do it in person next time, I'll give you a hot dog, John. I won't throw it at you.
Uh-huh. I bet that's what you say to all the girls.
He might have to bring 2 though, and throw 1 at you.
Uh-huh.
Oh.
I'll make sure I wear my Cubs hat.
So I think there's a good 60% chance I do have access to a Power Glove for that return.
Oh, okay.
I just did some emailing, and I think we know where ours is
Okay.
from growing up.
All right.
Cool.
All right. Well, as far as I can tell, I kept checking a little bit earlier because I know the weather's supposed to be bad. As far as I know, we have school tomorrow, so I'm going to bed.
I don't think there's any chance they're calling this one, guys.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I wouldn't mind a day off tomorrow.
Yeah,
Oh, that would be amazing.
that'd be okay with me.
Yep. I mean, it's supposed to snow throughout, but we'll see. It'll stop at 1, 2, 3, and then it's going to be light rain. That's the problem. If it turns to rain, we're screwed.
Yeah.
End up being a great birthday.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, and we'll most likely see most of you tomorrow.
Yes, definitely.
All right.
All right. All right. Take it easy. Have a good night.
All right.
You
guys.
too, John. Thanks.
Take care.
Good night, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Good night,
Bye,
Ned.
guys.
Go Cubbies.